We're starting off high.
We can get
I think
two fools agree on that one. Oh, by the way, look, we got the wide shot.
there was you had accountability. Now what I can
Now all you need is a podcast and a YouTube channel.
no, not even.
Where give me the money. Show me the money.
Apparently there's a fool page.
Shoot the J. Shoot it. Live on Facebook.com/Foolproof Entertainment Network. I need you on Twitter. I need you to repost the Facebook pages.
To raise a human before I would
Trust a human to raise back wolves.
before I would trust a pack of humans to raise a wolf.
Right. I hear you. Yo, what up, fools? We are back with another edition of Do Fools Agree, episode 46, I think. Does that sound right? Is that right?
I think that might be right.
Why not? And we are here to have a conversation about some more serious topics, but I'm sure we'll manage to make it fun. I, of course, am your host, Michael Reggie, as always, here with my main man, Clifford Jordan Jennings. And Cliff, if you want to do the introduction of our guest for the evening.
I got a pretty important person to me in the building this evening. I have my stepfather. I call him Michael, aka Milk Dudley Do Right.
He's the other Mike.
But he's here today, attempting to school us degenerates on something that I still haven't seemed to absorb to this day. So hopefully something sticks by the end of the evening, at least for me. I know these two are on the right track. Me, Jesus, take the wheel.
There you go.
What's up?
So how's it going tonight, Mike? How's it going?
It's going well.
Good deal. How was your week?
What's that?
I said, how was your week?
It was actually very stressful, but it's
Not
over
bad.
with. It's
There you go.
Friday. Tomorrow,
Yeah,
you have to
it's
relax,
swang.
so I'm good.
So I'm not going to run into you at Lowe's, which seems to be where we perennially run into each other.
You may run into the other.
That's how you know you're an old bastard
Right?
now, Mike.
Right? No
You're
doubt.
running into the old folks at Lowe's now.
This is how I run into Mike. I don't know. It feels like it's like every 6 months or something. We run into each other there, or some one of those units or one of those shopping places around there. So
That's when you know you're making things happen. When you have
I know that's
Shit.
right. Well, listen,
That's when I realized I'm back there for the third time that day because I got the wrong goddamn piece to begin with.
Listen.
Or I realized there's a
I have a
tool that I
job for
can't
that.
find.
How was your Thanksgiving though, sir? Other than y'all playing Postmates and Uber Eats, dropping off food to everybody and their mamas.
Hey, it was good. You know, I'm a Washington football fan, so I got to see my boys stomp the Cowboys.
Yeah,
so-
y'all got one. Y'all got one.
Oh yeah.
I'm not mad at you for
I
that.
mean, I'm
Listen,
always a fan of watching the Cowboys get beat. So
anytime.
yeah, I said it, David. I said it, Chauncey. What?
Anytime. But I will say, Derek Carr showed his true colors last week, didn't he?
Oh, did he? I didn't see.
Did you not see?
I totally fell off last weekend, man. I didn't even watch the
He
Bills
had
game.
I think he had like 4 fumbles for a turnover
Oh shit.
and 2 interceptions
Yeah, they got smashed.
by the Falcons.
Now,
Yeah.
I will say I didn't watch the
By the
Bills games,
Falcons.
but I know they won. So
It was like 46-13. What
that's
was it?
absurd.
I can't
It was
remember.
awful.
It was 40 something to something. They
Yeah.
They got killed.
We ain't getting no more than 2 touchdowns or a touchdown and a couple of field goals. I know that much. It was awful. It was awful, but you know.
Well, you know, we'll have to have an NFL chat here again.
Wrapping up the season, going into the playoffs. When does the season end? Do you know?
Usually it's like the
actual date?
second week of January is the start of playoffs, or the
Is
third
it the
week.
second week?
Second week of January, I think, is usually the last week of the season or first week of January, and then the playoffs are usually the second or third week of January. That's when they start because the Super Bowl ends up being like the second week of February, and they do the Pro
That's
Bowl.
not our
in between.
anniversary, is it? Our anniversary episode.
It might be. That might be the first weekend of the playoffs. It might be. It's either that weekend or the previous weekend. I can never remember. I think it's that weekend. It may actually be that weekend.
Well, we may just have
So we
to
can
tie
talk
in.
about the fact the Bills are in the playoffs and are going to win the whole thing. So
That's all he wants to talk about.
Josh
Listen,
Allen.
first of all, Josh Allen is the equivalent to NBA's James Harden. You can take him exactly where y'all need to go,
right.
but he'll mess it up eventually.
Don't fuck it up. Don't worry.
You hear what I'm saying?
I mean, we saw that last year.
James Harden is listen, I don't know how many playoffs he's fucked up in the past 4 years, and he gets there every time. And that seems like Josh Allen's
His path.
yeah.
I mean, you're not
At the
wrong about
moment.
that. That's kind of what we did last year, and he choked in the fourth quarter last season. So
we'll see how that goes.
We'll see.
But I'll cheers to your Redskins. I wish we would take Haskins from you.
You might get him.
I'm hoping so. I know we looking at him.
Yeah, they have him sitting on the bench, so
Or they might as well
Somebody
wait
might as well
until
use him.
how many quarterbacks are coming out this next year? But they had a decent season, so they're not gonna have an opportunity to get one.
who? The Raiders?
Right.
Yeah.
Last year was their year to do it, and they decided not to.
Yeah,
That's probably why they're at Haskins right now.
Yeah.
possibly. Yep.
No, that's probably true. You
Oh,
needed
well,
needed them to start
You never-
taking a week
You
or
never
two.
know what those quarterbacks are going to do when they get in the pros.
That's true
Right.
too.
There's a big difference between that and in college.
No, you are correct there. I would definitely agree on that.
Yeah.
And I know everybody got high hopes. You know what though? I will say this, and well, I will leave it after this unless anybody else has any ending thoughts. But what's his name? Fields.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Justin
Justin
Fields?
Fields.
He's the first Ohio State quarterback that has a chance to break the curse. You know what I mean?
Instead of
He's-
just being the athletic QB that doesn't really doesn't translate to the pros.
Listen, the best quarterback that we put in the league thus far is Bobby Hoyne when he played for the Dolphins. And that tells you something. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So this Fields boy has a shot to break the curse and actually be an Ohio State quarterback that does something in the NFL.
Yeah.
Right.
We thought it could have been possibly Cardell. He looked good the first couple weeks, and then he fell off like a roller coaster with an unfinished track. I don't know.
He was the
but
Bills' backup for a hot minute for the
Yeah.
first year.
now he's in the Arena League or playing in Canada, or he may have him in a samurai outfit over there. You know what I'm saying? Right? I don't know what. Listen, I don't know what's going on.
I mean, the good news is if he's still playing with the amount of injuries we're starting to see, like somebody might pick him up, right? Like if he's still in shape and
I can
somebody
see that.
might pick him up as a backup, like, and backup's a comfy life in the NFL, especially if you're a third string. If you're the third,
Well,
listen.
quarterback.
Look at Denver last week.
Right?
They
Ooh,
pulled
what
the-
happened there?
They pulled a guy off the streets
Yes.
who was a receiver.
I think I did hear about that.
Yeah.
I think I did hear about that.
Because all of
Yeah.
their QBs were like in COVID dilemma.
Right.
Shit, speaking of your first statement, look at you may get the Nick Foles experience. Listen, they benched me into the playoffs. I just came in, did my Willie Beeman, and now they giving me millions of dollars to play somewhere else. I already got the cash. What you want?
I'm good. I don't
Yep.
need to play ever again.
Right.
Oh yeah.
But you know,
As long as he's managing his money correctly.
Now listen. Well, that's what this is for. Hopefully, Nick Foles, you're listening because I don't know how talented you are. Hopefully, Carson Wentz. Matter of fact, Eagles roster. Tune in because we don't know how long
the entire
y'all may
roster.
be around.
not just one or two guys. The entire fucking team.
To Do Fools Agree.
We want to make sure you're managing
46.
your money right. All right.
Yes,
So on a real note, though, before we get into that, you got any inadvertent thoughts, Mr. Jennings?
So I do have an inadvertent, and
these are always good.
I think that it may tie into something that we can use, or I'll have a question, or we may just bring it out now. But my inadvertent comes to credit, since we're talking about, credit management and all that. So I've always had a problem with the word derogatory credit.
Okay.
Right? You know what I mean? And of course, just for the sake of the show, I looked up the word derogatory. I mean, I knew what it was before, but I looked up the literal meaning of the word derogatory. And it says showing critical or disrespectful attitude is the word for derogatory.
Is the definition.
Right? Yeah.
So it led me down a path then, because I thought to myself, critical or disrespectful attitude. Then I thought to myself, isn't it more derogatory to not pay people enough money to survive in the current social economic platform and forcing them to have to use credit to survive in the world? Doesn't that seem a little bit more disrespectful than paying somebody what they're worth?
I'm with you. I mean, I think that's a fair point, and it's credit's a tricky thing, man. Like,
here's where it gets deeper, because they say, right? They say if you are hired by normally any job itself, whether it be McDonald's, whether it be a call center, whether it be a credit management facility.
Mm-hmm.
They say to your $30,000 you may make a year if you're doing all right, and that's all right. It's not the best. You're making them upwards of 120,000, right? So that's what we could say 30%, right? 25%, that's 25%. So they're making 75% off of what you're doing for them for the year, right? But the irony is, you look at most credit cards and they're charging you an APR of 24.99. Isn't that same 25% that they're
paying you?
Giving you, right? So don't things start to get even more derogatory when you look at it from a zeros and ones perspective, where it's like, well, wait a minute. You're trying to keep me in this loop where if you just paid me enough, I may have succeeded to be able to not have to use credit.
But then they wouldn't be making money.
Exactly, which is the derogatory. This is where derogatory comes into play. Yet they use that word, a word so strong. That's a very strong word. That's why I said I've always had a problem with it. They use that word to describe you for not being able to pay them back.
Exactly.
It's true.
Well, let's look at it from a different perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say Mike said, "Hey Cliff, man, let me borrow $25."
Right.
Man, it's gonna be tough, but since you my boy, I'm gonna loan you the $25.
Appreciate it, Cliff.
So when can you get it back?
Not so quick.
Wait a minute. And Mike says, "Man, look, I got this money coming in. I'm good for it. I guarantee you I'm going to pay you back Friday." Right. So Friday comes and goes, and Mike doesn't pay you back that money. And then not only does he not pay you back that money,
hey Cliff, you got a 10 spot?
You just happen to go out and you see Mike at the liquor store buying, I don't know what you drink, but
I'm a
buying
whiskey guy.
at least
Echo Spirit.
Echo
$5 worth of
Spirits.
stuff. So
Right.
would you? And then you look at him and say, "Man,
Break his legs.
what
Like
happened?
the mafia.
What happened to my $25? Oh man,
See, what
I
had
got
happened
this
was
party coming up, so I got to get this, but I'll get you next week." So would you or would you not say that he was disrespecting you?
Well, first, first and foremost, if he ever approached me like that, and I knew Mike had a job, my first thought would be, "Oh, they're making 75% off of you, huh? You're not getting paid what you weigh." Because if you were paid what you weigh, you wouldn't have to ask me nor anybody for $25. So we're back into the derogatory. Now, here's the thing about it is, I much rather would have dealt with the mob. I would much rather you break my legs for not paying you that $25 back
than to break your credit.
than you to ruin my financial standing for arguably in some people the rest of their life.
Yeah.
You feel what I'm saying? That's something that's derogatory.
And I will jump in here just from she'll hate me for saying this. My wife's credit score is terrible. The house that we are buying is solely going to be funded off of my credit. So we're not doing a joint loan, none of that stuff, because what we found when we bought her car last year was that having her on the loan actually hurt my rate than me just buying it myself. Yep. And I can tell you that at least since we've been married, probably a year into our marriage when I realized that this was a bigger problem, was that she's made on-time payments. She has paid ahead of schedule. She has not had any issues. She has paid down debt. She has paid down student loans. Like, they're not completely gone yet, but like, she has made good progress versus where she was when she was living in DC. Her credit score has not improved that much. So there's a lot of truth to once they bury you, it is very hard to climb back out from a credit perspective.
Right. Well, that's not necessarily true.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah, that's what you're here for. Explain.
Right. So there are a lot of things, and before we get started, let me make a disclaimer.
You are not a
yeah.
Do not come to me for legal advice.
Advisor. I'm not an attorney.
I used to have to say that at Discover. I used to have to say that exact same spiel before I told anybody about their interest rate or how this affects.
I'm just a brother out here making my own money. Thank you.
Listen, if I told you how much I got paid, you'd probably hang up and say, "Well, who the fuck should I call? Because this mother."
But go ahead, Mike.
But getting back to specifically derogatory. So usually when you have those on your credit report, obviously you didn't make your payment, or you made your payments late, and they're going to linger. They linger for 7 years. So, but you can dispute any derogatory thing on your credit. And if you keep disputing it, so right now, all of those evaluations are done by computer.
Right.
Yeah, they're all computer score that's based on people reporting your on-time payment history and that kind of stuff.
Right.
So if you send in letters and letters and letters, eventually they're just not going to get caught up.
Right.
And they have a certain amount of time in order to make a determination off of your dispute. And if they don't meet that time frame, which is 30 days,
right,
then they have to remove that from your credit report.
Yeah, and I mean we deal with that. I mean I work for a credit card company, so yeah, that's our standard. Yeah.
So it's just a matter of
how much you want to fight.
Yeah, I mean one of the things I always talk about is that most kids, when you're coming up, your parents don't even talk to you about credit.
Right.
Completely agree.
Right.
Most of us don't learn about credit until our credit is messed up.
True.
And then you realize, well, okay, I see why it's important. But you don't have to stay in that position. And it's important for all of us to stay on top of that. And that's kind of why I talked to you about that before, Cliff, a few weeks ago, how it's important for us to at the very least know what your credit score is, because a lot of people don't even know what
it
their credit
is.
score is.
Well,
they may think your credit is bad. It may not even be bad.
And
they
if
may
you
not even know what is a bad credit score and what is a good credit score.
Right.
They don't know.
I know what a bad and a good one is, but I didn't know what mine was till we had that conversation a couple of weeks ago. I said, I don't care what this credit score is.
So I'm trying to remember for sure, but like prime rate for a credit score is like 680 to 720, I thought.
You said what?
Like 680 to 720, 740. Anything
you said
above
prime
that,
rate for
I said
credit for the
for
credit.
credit.
Okay.
So for your credit score, like if you want to be in kind of where, I don't want to say the best people, but like prime rate in terms of you would be a good credit customer.
Right.
So that means that one, they know they can make money off of you, but
Right.
two, you have a history of paying you have a history of making payments on time and those kind of things. Like I end up not being a great credit customer. My credit score is too high, honestly. Like that's where I land. I have an 800 plus credit score that I can loan money, but they also know they're not going to make any money off of me because I've never missed a payment, none of that. So, but that's where, when you start getting into credit scores, I agree with you, Mike. Like nobody taught me that. I honestly didn't really know much about that until, I had my first credit card and really until I did my first mortgage. Like
that's zeros and ones though. It's by
true.
design. It's too easy. Like you got to take government classes in high school.
Right.
So you mean to tell me that me learning about the government
is more important than me learning about finances and how to, yeah. And I think one of the smartest things I ever did was the first credit card I got. Like I didn't run up any debt on it. I actually would pay my cable bill with it, and then I'd pay it off every month just to build that payment history.
Listen, I did that with mine too, right? Listen, this is funny because I got my first credit card this year.
Okay.
When I worked at Discover, they offered me a 7.49 APR for life.
That's phenomenal.
And I said, I don't want any parts of it. Wow. I want no parts of it. So look, this is what happens, right? So I get the credit card, $300 limit. I'm making purchases and I'm paying it off. Like in full.
Yeah.
All right.
So then I start getting alerts saying that this isn't, I can't remember what the wording of the alert, but it wasn't beneficial for me to, out of that $300 credit line, to spend $225 and pay it all off before the end of the month.
Who told you that? It
was an alert. It was basically because I guess what I was doing was I was exceeding what the 40% or 35%.
30%.
I was exceeding that threshold, and then I was paying it all off before, like I don't know, because I talked to somebody about it and they tried to explain it to me, and I was like, oh, if this is the case, then like
it's a utilization rate, yeah.
So let me speed up. So then I didn't want my credit line any higher than 300. Because I wanted it something that I could pay off.
You knew you could always pay off with a check if you needed to. Yeah.
So then when we had that conversation, they ended up raising my interest rate without me knowing. I caught an attitude. I called in, started talking to them, and they brought up to me that I was exceeding that 35% threshold. Might be best to have that $500 interest rate. Now, of course, the situation that we're in currently, so I ended up having to use it a little more than I normally would. Now I'm at 450 of my 500.
So credit limit, okay.
Way above your
utilization. Exactly. But this is what I'm trying to explain to you on a small scale.
Yeah.
How they get you. On a small scale. See, I was very comfortable with that 300, even though it wasn't doing to my credit what they wanted it to do. But once you talk me into more, you put me in a situation where I'm in a financial bind trying to keep up with your payments. And now you're throwing mud on my name.
But the flip side of that is just because you have a higher limit doesn't mean you should use it more, right? Like that's the end of the story.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right.
that so they listen to this. So they didn't throw mud on your name. They didn't put you in a bind.
They just
They
tempted
actually,
you.
by them increasing your limit, they were actually putting you in a better position. It's you that decided, oh, now that I have 500, yeah, I'm gonna take it all the way
Hey,
up to 495.
touche, touche. You won't get the A, but I will say touche. All right. You don't get the full touche, but I'll give you touche.
Okay, I'll take
Because
two.
the bottom line is, like I said, and this is what's even more funny about it. And I was gonna bring this point up. I was gonna bring this point up, but you said that we're in a pandemic currently, right?
Mm-hmm.
They said that record numbers of people are paying their rent and major bills with their credit cards.
True.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
In a situation, because what you're doing is you're putting people in a situation where they already are struggling and they need a little more, and you're putting them in a position where they're digging their own grave.
Absolutely.
So they are throwing dirt on my name.
It's
Now
predatory.
here's the thing. Here's the funny thing about it is before this whole pandemic happened and I got that credit card, what do you think they were sending me?
Credit card
Well,
offers.
we see that you're available for up to a $500 to $1,000 credit line. All you have to pre-approve type stuff.
Yep.
Now, let me ask you. Ask me what I just got yesterday.
Another pre-approval.
Ask me how much.
1,000.
5 to 10. I said, now this is ridiculous. Now, what you're doing right now is you're working on people that need shit. Because let's be real, though. Let's be real. It's not just about the pandemic. It's about the holidays. It's about
it's about everything right now. It's
about
that time of
everything
year.
all at once. And for some reason, I wasn't good enough for 250 to 500 before, 500 to 1,000. Now it's 5,000 to 10.
Well, again,
first of all, just because they say you're pre-approved,
right. That doesn't mean that. I told you I worked for the credit card company, but that means not. That means not, because the bottom line is I didn't know if I would get 500 to 1,000.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
But that's what you sent me. So now that my credit has decreased, but we're still in a pandemic, why are you sending me more?
Because they're still trying to make money.
More than, though.
Like I just said at the beginning.
Another offer from someone else. I'm saying more than the previous.
I'm with you. I said it at the beginning of the show. I'm going to be indebted to Wells Fargo for the rest of my life, probably at this point. And
I'd much rather you break my legs for real.
Well, so I always look at things as why do people get in business? They don't get in business to I mean, there are charities, but even charities make money.
Right.
Nonprofits make money.
Right.
People get in business to make money. They didn't get in business to say, hey, Cliff, I'm going to hook you up. Even the guy on the street that says he's going to hook you up is making some money off of you.
Right. And there's different ways. That's what I'm saying, though. There's different ways that's what I'm saying. In this situation, that's why I found derogatory so funny, is because with me saying I much rather the mafia break my legs for not paying them back than you ruin my credit for the rest of my life. You have to understand, I can learn to walk again. You feel what I'm saying? Let's be 100. You know me personally. Been through worse. Okay?
I get it.
What I'm saying is I can work my way out of that situation. Now, this situation that we're discussing now, and a lot of it may come from ignorance. You know what I mean? Ignorance to what is available to me. And I know that's why we have you on here. But at the same time, the whole system, the whole game is rigged. Well, the game is rigged.
No, so everything.
Only a certain percentage of people win.
Well, no, that's not true.
So you're saying it's a 50-50?
The people who win are the people who understand the rules.
How to play the game. Yeah.
That's all it is. It's just a matter of understanding the rules to the game, and then you take those rules to make them work
For
to
your
your
advantage.
advantage.
Yep.
It's like example credit cards. I mean, they gave you some more money in credit instead of you taking that money and say, okay, let's say they gave you 10,000. They say, okay, Cliff, we're going to give you a credit card for $10,000.
I wouldn't accept it.
Wait a minute, see, and that's not playing the game.
Right.
Well, I don't wanna.
That's not playing.
I
That's
don't
not.
want to. But that's
Wait
the
a
thing,
minute.
though.
Hold
You
on.
shouldn't.
Hold
But
on.
that's the
You
thing.
don't
You
know.
have to
But
play.
You don't know you don't want to.
You
You
shouldn't
can-
have to play, though. That's the
Wait a
thing.
minute.
You shouldn't have to play. This is a
Okay.
world we live in now where you have to. You have no choice
No,
but
that's
to use credit.
That's
not,
not true, though.
That's not
Tell me
true.
why.
So wait a minute. Let me finish my statement first of all.
Finish
Yep.
it, and I'm patiently waiting for you to tell me why.
Okay. So the game, like I said, they offer you $10,000, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want it. But the point is, okay, you have $10,000. Now, what are you going to do with that $10,000? Are you going to you take that $10,000 credit card and just frivolously buy some Jordans and your girl designer purses and stuff that's just going to deteriorate? Or are you going to take that $10,000 and turn it into $20,000?
This isn't a business card; it's a credit card. We're in a pandemic. You
That's
know what
what I'm
everybody's
talking-
going to do
I'm
with it.
talking
But
about a
that's
credit
but
card.
that's the whole thing, though, is that just because if you the mere fact of having a credit limit available of $10,000 is what helps your score.
Right.
Like if you have, even if you have $100 balance on it, that shows that you are fiscally responsible because you're not spending up to your $10,000 limit. Like that's what builds
understand.
your credit, is that available credit and the utilization rate. So the utilization rate is the amount that you owe on that account and the amount that you have available to you. Like that's what's gonna kill. That's gonna kill me here by making a down payment on my house with my home equity line. Now, home equity lines are a little bit different, but by making the down
understand
payment
that.
on my house with the home equity line, I'm going to be utilizing an entire line of credit that was huge to begin with, that I've been very good about, haven't used hardly at all other than for our whole IVF journey, which my family knows about. Like, it's gonna hurt. The flip side of that is, for a little while, I'm gonna be okay with that because I will have made the big purchase that we have been waiting to make,
I don't want.
and I will have
listen,
equity in the house the day that I buy it.
Listen, I don't want anybody to forget my question though. How is it to where you don't have to play the credit game?
If you want to pay cash for everything,
You got to make bank.
You're more than welcome to do that.
Mike, though, they're reviewing people's credit scores for job applications now.
Absolutely.
So if you pay cash
that's
for
a
everything and you have
responsibility
no
metric.
credit,
Wait a minute, you said play the credit game like the credit cards.
no. I mean credit it's all credit. It all falls under credit.
You talking about credit score? Yeah, you got to play the credit score game.
Because without playing the credit game, you don't have a credit score, or you have a
Right.
low credit score.
That's it.
Right.
But the question is, why do you need a credit score? You need a credit score to make purchases that you do not have the available capital to make.
But if you have the available capital, why do I need that credit
don't.
score?
You don't.
But that's
you just
the thing,
pay
though.
cash.
How do you get a job if you don't have a credit
well,
score? You feel what I'm saying?
All right. Well, but
Do you
check
feel what I'm saying?
I know what you're talking about, but credit score. Your credit score is almost like your Social Security.
But that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. If I don't want to play, I shouldn't have to play.
Well,
If I have enough money,
you could be a sovereign citizen and just
listen,
use
Moors stand up. Where the Moors at? You hear what I'm saying?
cash. Right.
About to start hanging a flag out my door when I get pulled over by the police.
The proletariat
I
rising
don't-
up against the
yeah,
bourgeoisie.
listen,
Yes,
walk
we know.
away because I don't. But listen, it's a game. Not only is it a game, it's a rigged game.
But why
Let's
why,
be honest.
why do you consider it rigged? I don't get
Because he
it.
hasn't figured it out.
What do you mean? I haven't figured out why it's rigged. Have I not explained the entire
You
situation.
explained it, but again, we're saying that the decision you made wasn't the right one. The decision is to accept the $10,000 limit and not use it, or use it very little.
Understandable, but what you have to understand, and when I say you, I mean both of you. There's more of us than there is y'all.
I don't disagree
with
what
that. I'm saying? There's more of us that don't have a situation where, listen, I may have to use this card to do something I don't want to do.
And guess what? We all get in that situation. When you own a house,
but what I'm
like having to replace a furnace was a expense that I did not want to have to take on. I had to take it on.
Completely understand, but see, that's a replacing a furnace situation. There's daily ones that
I get it.
You feel what I'm saying? So what I'm getting at is when you know that there's more of us, people that need something immediately, if you offer them credit, and
and that's all that's available to them. I agree from the standpoint that our government should have done more by this point.
It's period.
Well, let me ask you this question. You leaving me?
He's answering. He's answering kids at the door, I'm sure.
Oh, okay. All right. Because this is directly for Cliff.
I got you. No, I mean, I understand what he's saying, but at the same time, it's, that's all. And he and I have gotten into this debate before, and I get that it's the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots at this point are definitely outnumber the haves, but at the same time, and Cliff and I have talked about this, if we're not all starting from the same, not even starting from the same playing field, Cliff's point has always been, as long as we can play by the same rules. Right, same rules.
I don't need the same starting line. You can start ahead of me. I can walk you down, but don't come up with different rules for me than you to stop me from getting there. But that's a different conversation. But what I'm getting at is, like he said, there are more have-nots than there are haves. Okay. Regardless, if you have the knowledge itself to know I can't do this because this will affect the credit score, but at the same time, I know if I don't do this, it may stop me from eating next month. You're going to make that decision every time. There's no question about it.
Absolutely. So this is the thing that I wanted to say. So if you did not have that money, that credit, they didn't offer you credit, and you had zero money and you were hungry, then what are you going to do?
I mean,
don't set me up, Michael Taylor.
I was about to say, I'm not gonna. But we are not gonna incriminate on this network. I know what Cliff would do, though.
Listen, I've always been listen, let me tell you something. My number one question, and I know it may sound funny to a lot of people, but my number one question to a female is, what wouldn't you do for your child? You feel what I'm saying? Would you sell your box for your child? What would you not do for your child?
Yeah.
Okay.
You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and anytime a female says, no, I can never see myself selling my box, don't need you. Don't want you around here. Because that's a loyalty thing. When it comes down to feeding me and mine, let's be 100. I can't think of something I wouldn't do.
Absolutely.
And I get that.
Absolutely.
And so by choosing the legit.
So what I'm saying is, when you're dealing with somebody that thinks like that, and you got to think, I'm a lot better off than a lot of people. But when you're dealing with somebody that thinks like that, do you think they care about a number that the government keeps on file?
Yeah, but that's not really the point.
They're not in a position where they can, to be honest.
Well, that's okay. So
But I know I'm off rails. I'm throwing it off because I want you to teach, but at the same time, I want to understand as well. Because that it just doesn't make sense to me. And what I'm saying is, right now, the whole place where we are currently in a society is knowing that the people, because essentially what the government is to the country are our parents. And if you're not parenting us, then we need to cut you off and get into foster care and fend for ourselves.
The thing is they're taking care of the step cut, like they're taking care of the property. They're not taking care of the kids.
Exactamundo, sir. But what we're doing right now in the era of 2020, 2021, like I said, and we've said on this podcast for so many episodes, we're in the era of realization.
Yeah, it's an awakening. Hopefully, we'll see.
And what I'm saying is that motto, I'm not saying that it doesn't work and it shouldn't work, but I'm also saying that it puts you in a position where, whether you know it or not, you're subconsciously almost losing empathy for the rest. You know what I mean? Like like if I was a Bezos, like, and I wrote some of this down, if I was a Bezos as an alternate to the current credit system that we have, pay me an annual fee of $250. And what I can do for you is I can guarantee that we won't charge you any more than a 10.99% annual percentage rate.
Well,
Now,
I mean,
does that
and there
not
are
work
cards.
for you. Do you need something lower?
There are
Well,
cards like that.
Pay us $500 a year, and I may be able to get it to 7.59. And you're still going to make profit. People aren't going to dig themselves in that big of a hole, but that's right. And we're not about right here in this country. We're about capital.
They actually used to have credit cards like that.
Yeah.
I remember years ago, you had to pay 200.
I wasn't alive for that.
I mean,
you know what I'm saying? I wasn't alive for that, but I came to that conclusion.
But there are
own,
there are other credit vehicles where that's an option. I mean, that's basically what you can do with a mortgage. You can buy down points.
You can buy down. Yep.
Well, I don't understand why it's not for credit. The only reason why it's not is because we are in a capitalist society.
Companies realize
that
they couldn't
rather
make as
watch
much money.
people die while their pockets get bigger than help people as a whole. The economy gets better the more people have money, correct?
Well, it depends on your philosophy there. Yes, I agree with that.
Not too much money, but money in general. Right now, everybody's dead broke.
No,
they're talking about right now. We got paid that one $1,200 stimulus check. They've been talking about Britain is the next lowest, and they've been paying $1,700 a month.
Right. Well, on top of that, like, look at who made money during this whole thing. You look at the top 5, wealthiest people in America, and they double or triple their wealth during the pandemic.
So here's me.
So that's where our system is broken. It's not. It's that,
So this may give you perspective then. If I'm playing a game like that, if that's my game, if we're playing a game and that's the game where I'm realizing like, oh, this is geared for. I'm
take out the
flipping
leader.
The table. No one's winning. The table's flipped. There's no more pieces on the board. That's what I do. I'm not playing this game with you.
All right. So with all of that though, let's kind of bring it back to the table in terms of Mike. If for what Cliff's talking about, and I get it. Like I get when you're desperate, you're more likely to, and that's the whole reason why they shut down.
Of that.
I hear you. Let me finish. That's the whole reason why they shut down places like payday lenders and those kind of things. So when somebody is starting off, if that's their starting point, what is kind of your thought process in terms of how you crawl out of that or how you make out of that? Like we talked a little bit earlier about, you can go through and you can dispute and all of that. Right now, there's relief programs out there, and honestly, most credit card companies, if you call them right now, they will give you some sort of like COVID forbearance. At the end of the day, typically, if you're in an agreement, it's not going to hurt your credit score. I mean, it might hurt it a little bit, but if you're in an agreement and making the payments as agreed, it's not going to be a problem. But like, what would you recommend at that kind of point, like where we're starting off there?
So if someone was, their life had already begun. Their credit score is not good. They have
or non-existent. They just haven't used it before.
I didn't hear you.
I said
non-existent.
Well, if they didn't have any credit,
it's easier to come out of that than not having a bad score.
Fair.
Well, not necessarily.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have a credit score at all, it's going to take you about 6 months to get a credit score.
But you think it's going to take longer to get out of the hole, or shorter to take out of the hole?
If you are diligent, I think it takes less time to get out of the hole.
And when you say diligent, do you mean funds available?
I mean, pay your.
So you mean funds available?
Well,
That's what you mean. That's what you're saying.
funds available to pay off those things that are late,
Right.
or that you, or like something that you just let go and not paying on it
At
ever
all.
again.
Yeah.
Go
Right.
back.
And I understand. Okay, I understand.
It's always
Go
better to
back
make
and
a
negotiate
payment.
with those.
Yeah.
Usually they'll give you. Usually it's they sent it to a
collections.
collection company, and then you can negotiate with a collection company.
Collections company will take pennies on the dollar usually.
Right.
Because they bought the debt for pennies on the dollar.
They bought the debt for pennies, and they just hoping to get anything. So
yeah.
You negotiate with them, get those paid off, then you need to dispute all the derogatories. And yeah, this a game. It's a game that you don't like to play, but it's a game you can win at. You don't have,
how far you think your stomach is from your back by the time you complete all those things that you just said? If you're one of those people that are in need that used credit.
Well, first of all, if you are unemployed or you don't have funds coming in, then there ain't no sense in you even worrying about your credit.
See, that's something completely different though, because not having funds coming in and all your bills taking up all your funds are two completely different things. They just released on the news the other day. They said a lot of people in this country, they said 80% of the people in this country couldn't recover from a $500 to $1,000 bill.
Right.
And that's the truth.
But that's been like that for years. That's been like that for years. You go back 10 years ago, they'll say in any book you look at, they tell you that most people are 2 to 3 paychecks away from being homeless.
Yeah.
Well, see,
exactly.
that's the thing though.
And that's not right, but that's the current state.
Do you think that $500 to $1,000 is 2 to 3 paychecks?
I'm just saying, it's always a situation where people are this close.
And that's more to my point though. That's more to
Cliff,
my point.
Nobody's disagreeing with nobody's disagreeing with your point though, dude. Like,
right?
I don't think anybody's arguing your point. What we're talking about though is how you can improve where you're at. You can improve your standing.
Well, that's
there.
what. Well,
and
no,
I get
your
that you're saying with
for someone that's just starting or has no credit, how
or has
would
bad
they
credit.
dig themselves out? And your question described is beyond 6 months to a year. So
if their situation, okay, I'm just going to take just an average person that's working. I'm talking about somebody that has a job, and actually, you don't even need a job, but an average person that has a job. I'll just tell you what I would do.
Fair.
If I had a job making $30,000 a year,
right?
So I'm not making a lot of money, $30,000 a year, and I have credit card debt. I have $20,000 in credit card debt. That's a lot. $20,000 in credit card.
Right.
And my credit sucks.
Because you have $20,000.
Right. Clearly.
$20,000 in credit card debt. And let's say that it's across 3 or 4 different credit cards. So it's not all on one credit card. So that way I want to make it realistic.
Yeah.
Right.
Across 4 or 5 credit cards, $20,000 in debt. I got a job making $30,000 a year. I got a bunch of late payments on my credit cards and a couple of charge-offs. So the first thing I would do is write down all of my bills, everything I'm paying
right
now, everything I will pay to be current, not if my minimum payment on my credit card is $30, but I'm sending them $15.
Right.
How much am I going to have to pay just to stay?
Well, I don't even think
minimum,
you can do that.
minimum
you can't
payment
pay below the minimum.
Once you negotiate, you can. And minimum payment does not. Minimum payment covers
you
the
mean
interest.
like
That's about
collections
it.
type stuff?
No. I'm talking about on your credit. Let's say your credit card. They say your minimum payment on your, because they give you a minimum payment that you can pay.
It's usually
$25, $30, something like that. Yeah.
Well, it depends on what your balance is,
and it depends on the card.
That's not
somewhat.
If your balance is $10,000, your minimum payment will not be $25.
Yeah, my minimum payment on the HELOC is going to be. Like
I mean, Discover.
200.
You'd be surprised. Discover had some pretty high balances.
But
with
that's
the
also.
$35. But that's also a part of the game. If you're only paying the minimum, you're revolving
you're
more.
losing. Yes, exactly.
Exactly. But you didn't let me finish my.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mike.
I apologize.
Okay, so first of all, identify how much money I'm paying out every month. That includes food, shelter.
What's your budget?
Utilities,
Transportation,
everything.
right?
Even on the first go round, even my miscellaneous stuff.
Right.
Here, whatever.
Right.
Hanging out, going out to eat, all that stuff. Write it all down.
Right.
The next thing I'm gonna do is see, okay, how much money do I have coming in? So let's say I have my total expenses came up to $2,500. And then I looked at all I have is a job. So I look at my job and I was like, okay, well, I'm only bringing in $2,200 a month.
Right.
After taxes. So I'm already $300 in the hole, right?
Right. Your
Right.
debt to income
Every
is
month,
way.
I'm $300 in the hole. So I got to immediately figure out where I'm going to deduct
Right.
$100 from my expenses.
And that's just to get back even, though. That's not even
Just to get back even.
right.
And let's hope that $300 is comprised of beer, going out to eat,
Right.
gas in my car, stuff that I can eliminate.
Well, you mean I feel like you would need gas in your car.
Well, because you can take the bus, you can ride with somebody.
Okay, I see what you're
or
saying.
you cannot go, especially now when people working from home. So you don't need to be filling up your car.
Lord knows my car. Listen, my car never went below a half a tank. Now my shit don't go above a half. You hear what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? If that $20 don't take me above a half a tank, that's it. That's what it is for the next 2 weeks. Shit, I ain't going nowhere.
All right. Okay.
But I'm following.
All right. So we got that. So now, okay, I eliminated that $300
Right.
debt. So now I'm just breaking even, right?
Right.
So while I'm doing that, I'm sending letters to the credit bureau. I mean, not the credit bureau, to the creditor.
Right.
And then I am sending letters to the credit bureau to dispute the derogatories on my credit report. So I'm sending those letters and keeping doing that until they start falling off, because they will fall off. Because eventually, I mean, you can't just do it with one letter. You're going to have to dispute it over and over and over.
We used to have these conversations at Discover. I'm following.
Okay.
I know, but that's half of the reason why I guess I get a little bit more fired up, because I'm like, it's not that easy though.
Well,
because more and more of that's automated than it was 10 years ago.
It's just not that easy. Like I talked to those people that were like, I've been going through this for I don't know how long.
So let me ask you a question. Because sometimes it's a matter of, hey, I just need to hire somebody to do it.
What do you mean? Oh, like pay somebody else? Well, shit, that's
hire a credit repair. I mean, you can do it yourself, but hire a credit repair company to do it.
But how do you do that if
you
gotta
don't have any
get
money to start with?
$300 out of your budget just to break even?
Okay, so it's a one-time payment, and actually, most credit repair companies will say, okay, our bill is $300. You pay us $150
up front, and then you pay $150 after.
Exactly.
But all they're doing is they're advising you on how to. They're not fixing it for you with that $150 up front.
They're sending the letters to the credit bureaus.
They're places that are doing
all of
that,
your stuff.
Which tells you how fucked up the system is to an extent, because if you can pay somebody to go dispute shit on your behalf, it's also like, well, why is it disputable in the first place?
Yeah.
It's like
bureaucracy.
Look, and this is my whole thing. And I know don't get me wrong. I understand that I could be giving you a hard time right now. But what it comes down to is you can never argue your side. You can't argue it because it's wrong. It's wrong. Like Dave Chappelle said about Netflix, he said what they're doing is perfectly legal, but is it right? If you're 28 years old and you don't know no better, I understand that. But is it right? And what I'm saying is, as a society, have we not made enough money to where we can't kick back off of the gas and do what's right?
Well, that's why you see programs like universal income and those kind of things becoming popular in terms of,
and there's still not
the far
enough.
radical left.
To help out.
Yeah.
Hold up real quick.
You're good. So, Mike, especially because Cliff is taking a minute. So, I've got a couple of former players, young kids that are just starting out. What would you recommend in terms of building that credit from a young age? We talked a little bit about, get that first credit card, but, be aware of utilization and be aware of don't use it, or use it every 6 months to make something that you can pay off in 2. So what would you, obviously, like you said, you've played this game, I've played this game, but you're the guest. So what would you recommend in that kind of situation for those kids that are just getting started, 18, 22 years old, that kind of age range?
Yeah. So first I would say, hopefully their parents have at least one credit card that they have been paying on religiously, haven't had any late payments on it, and the utilization is low. If their parents have at least one credit card like that, I tell them to make their kid an authorized user.
So make them an authorized buyer or sub account.
Yeah, add them to the account
as an off buyer. I got you.
As an authorized user. However, they're not going to give that kid a credit card. Their kid can't even do anything with the credit card. Their name is just on there. I did the same thing with Dominic.
Okay.
Just put them on the credit card. So when I use it, when I spend money on my credit card, when I pay the bill, it shows up on his credit report.
Does it? I didn't realize authorized buyers did. I thought the name was just on the account, that it didn't hit the
I used to have to take authorized buyers off of accounts because the people weren't making payments and it was messing up the authorized buyer's credit score. That was every day.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. That will happen as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you got it. If they have a parent that is doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, Mom, why didn't you ever put me as an authorized buyer, Mom? I'm looking at you. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I wasn't put on as an authorized user for my parents on my parents' card either.
No, I get it. But that's good to know. And Cliff and I both have children, so that's something to keep in mind as they get a little bit older and they hit that age range.
Once I get that $10,000 credit limit, they can all come on now. Listen. I'm trying to fall off grid and escape somewhere to.
I hear you. But Mike's trying to give the kids something to look forward to. So
yeah, I'm trying to
set them up for success.
Escape the game. You're trying to escape the game. I'm trying to teach you how to play the game.
Right.
And it's easier to learn how to play the game than it is to escape the game.
True.
I get that, but I don't play the same as everybody else. So me playing the game could lead me to escaping the game into a 5 to 10 in the pen type shit. No. I'm not playing the game. I'm not playing the game with y'all. But see, isn't that the same thing that you say to kids when they grow up? Don't get involved with people that you know could put you in a bad situation, right? That's what you say to kids growing up. And then when we grow up, you say, well, get involved with credit to get you in a better situation. But how many people come out on top the other side?
But that's also, and it's funny because my mom's in the chat kind of responding to all this. So she's like, I didn't trust you. That's why I didn't put you as an authorized buyer. But then
he's saying that Dominic doesn't have a card. He's just paying on his stuff. So she doesn't have to trust you. Dominic doesn't even have to know about Mike's card. He's still getting credit points for his payments.
I agree.
Right.
I was trying to give her a chance, and then
Oh, I'm sorry.
then she came back and said, "I did preach to you about not getting yourself overextended," which is not how I feel right now buying this new house, but I've been pretty good about that throughout my life. So, Mike, go ahead, continue in terms of let's wrap up at least the credit side, and then let's get to the good shit like wealth generation and real estate.
I've been trying to get.
I know you are. Cliff
That's the
gets in these-
thing. That's what
Cliff
I'm trying
gets
to
in
get.
these
Listen,
circular logic arguments.
listen, consider me the credit bureaus. I'm gonna stop you every chance you get. Every chance you try to take a step forward, yeah, credit bureau's gonna stop you and say, hold up, wait a minute. Did you make that? Did you do that? Because my whole thing is generational wealth. How do you get it without credit?
My point.
Right. And
Play
if
the
you're
game.
and if
Why
you're
are you-
in, what did we establish? The 80% who are having issues with credit, how do you then achieve the generational wealth?
All right, well let's wrap up the credit conversation and let's transition
But it
into
all ties in, doesn't it?
Don't disagree. Well, and this is what Mike is saying though. This is how you start. So, first of all, there's two different things. We're talking wealth generation versus generational wealth. How you set your kids up for generational wealth is exactly what Mike is saying. So he's saying add them as an authorized buyer to start that
That was great.
credit earlier. And then like what are the other kind of next steps as a kid is getting started? Like again, I coach high school kids. Some of those kids, go on to college, some don't. Especially for the ones that don't or that do and then don't continue through college, like what can they do to set themselves up for success in the future?
So, unlike Cliff is an anomaly who wants to stay outside of the game.
You got damn right.
But first of all, of course, like I said before, have their parents put them on their credit card to get some things started. Next, I would get them a secured loan. So hopefully this kid is still at home, working a job at, I don't know, they could be working at McDonald's, saving up a little bit of money, because I'm going to make sure that every time they get paid, you're going to put some of that money away into a savings. At some point, you're going to take at least $500 to $1,000 of his savings and go and get a secured loan at the bank. They'll give it to him because
it's a secured
$500 or $1,000. Have him pay on that for 6 months, and then eventually after 6 months, pay it off. Then go back to that same bank and get a credit card in his name or her name.
Because they already have the credit history at that point. They've built the credit history with that bank. I hear you.
Exactly. And now they've got it going. Some people go and get a Macy's card or JCPenney.
No, all right. As somebody that works for a company that deals almost exclusively in private label cards, don't do that.
Right. Do not do that. That is not.
And if you do that, tell them that Michael Reggie sent you.
All right. So now that they built their credit report up to a point where, they're still young and their credit is still new. So there are certain things that they're still not going to be able to do.
Yeah.
But it starts them on that path.
Yeah.
And then teach them, hey, whatever once you get that credit card, Mike, once you get that credit card, if it's $500 or $1,000, do not exceed 30% of the utilization of that card. So if you have $1,000 credit card, just pretend like you only have a $300 credit card.
Right, and come to me if you need if that's a problem.
Right.
All right.
Once you're there, you're in the game. You're in the game, winning the game.
And what's interesting, and this was always the thing that bothered me was, so the major factors in your credit score are on-time payments, are how long is your credit history, and that's the one that's the most frustrating because you can't do anything about that one.
Right, you can't change.
And then what's your utilization against your available credit? Like it's your total available credit, and then what's the utilization rate you have against it? Like those 4 or 5 factors are the biggest determinations of your score, right?
Yep. Yep.
So.
And then, I mean, once you mentioned 720 on your credit score. I mean, they have, of course, the three credit agencies: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion.
Yep.
So all three of them report credit differently. So your score is not going to be the same on all three.
And every company that you would get credit from, you don't know which credit reporting agency they're using. Some use multiple, some use just one, some use their own with a, factor of one of the three major bureaus, etc.
Yep. Exactly.
Which is why it's what's nice for me is that the two or three banks that I do business with, all three of them have a different one, whether it's the FICO score, whether it's the Experian, whether it's the TransUnion. So
Yep. Yeah. So once you start getting your credit established and you're in the game, now it's time to decide what you want. What do you want to do in life? What do you want to accomplish? How much do you want to start creating generational wealth? And like you said, I love that when you said not generating wealth, but generational wealth, because anybody can generate wealth.
Yeah.
But not everybody has generational wealth, and that means having wealth that's going to be dropped down to your kids, to your grandkids, to your great grandkids. That's my objective.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's how.
Well, and that's how the white man has stayed in power for so long, is we kept handing money down.
Did you hear what you said? Though that's your objective, right? Because me, to this day, have I yet to meet somebody that has passed generational wealth down to anyone.
Exactly, because for a number, well, you do know somebody.
Who?
The Canes.
I don't know them. I don't know them. If you watching right now, I don't know them. I don't know them.
You know of them. How about that?
I know of them.
Okay. My point is, most of the time, most families, first of all, we don't even, and I'm going to talk specifically about Black families. We don't.
Listen.
You don't do the life insurance.
That's why I was
you don't
getting
do
to it. Because I wanted to say that. I said that's the number one thing that I don't like about Black families is they always tell their kids to get the shit together, but they don't never tell them how to get their shit together.
Because they don't have theirs together. And
exactly. That's exactly.
And their kids don't want to listen. They don't want to play the game.
If you don't have your shit together, how can I listen to somebody that says get your shit together?
All right. So I'm going to throw something back at you. So if Karma said, Dad, I want to own 3 or 4 houses when I grow up, how do I do it?
Talk to your stepdad or to your grandpa.
Exactly.
That's exactly how you do that.
So,
listen, now if you're struggling and you lose all that money, come to me.
Okay.
And for the 80% of the people out there that were in that situation that we discussed, I'll give you my tips on Patreon. But you'll have to pay for them because they could or could not get you in trouble, is all I'm saying.
Well, and, Cliff, in fairness, in terms of generational wealth, and your comment may have been about Black people that you know, but you have a white friend who received money because his father was working for the state when he passed. And so I had general wealth in the terms of Social Security and Ohio Public Employee Retirement when my father passed away when I was 11, which is why I was able to afford the school I afforded and why my brother has been able to afford the school that he had. And he graduated with money, but my dumbass went to a quote-unquote smart school and paid more money.
Listen, let me tell you something, because my idea of generational wealth was dying while I was working a job that I get life insurance.
Right,
on.
exactly.
Well,
and that's what happened was my dad was working for the state when he passed.
That's the only generational wealth I can offer you.
And you know what?
You got to die before they're 18.
So you say that in jest, but one of the key pillars of generational wealth is life insurance.
Right.
It is.
Karma got that.
one of the
She does on my
easiest
end as
ways-
well, Mr. Jennings.
I'm glad that she got
She is
a
a-
white goddamn.
she
That's for
is a
goddamn sure, 'cause
beneficiary
I'm sure
on mine as well.
Your end is higher than my end, even though she's not your kid.
Well,
and that's a fact, Jack.
I don't know that she is because it's it's a percentage of mine, but she is a beneficiary on my account.
Listen, I'm sure she'll get more from you than she will from me. And that's
Again, it's a
what we're
percentage,
talking
it's not the
about
whole
here.
thing,
That's
but
what
go
I'm
ahead.
trying to get at. Why would I ever play a fucking game with anybody? Come on, stop playing with me. Let me stop.
You're good.
I was about to say something
Ignorant.
real. And I said, let me stop. You want me to
Anyway,
play? You lucky I don't. All right.
I hear
you
you.
know, hopefully some of your listeners will want to play the game.
No
Oh
doubt.
no, I mean I believe that there's a
Well,
there's a lot of our listeners that are let's just
they're in this demographic, honestly.
a lot of them are Mike's listeners, so they may be in a situation where they can.
Well, on
But
top of that,
there's a lot of listeners that are my listeners that are like, well, how the fuck would that ever work for me? The same way I'm thinking, and I'm saying join a Patreon.
Well, and
might
there's-
have something for you.
so what I do want to chime in with, just because I know, for what he does on the side, C-Mac, who's joined us on the show before, works for basically as a financial advisor. I think he's doing it as a side gig, not his full-time gig, but it's the same idea. It's selling life insurance, selling that kind of stuff. And I tell you what, when I had my first conversation about it, I was like, you know what? This is something like rich people talk about. Like, this isn't something I can do. This isn't something I'm interested in doing. And like,
What are you talking about? Life insurance?
yeah, and I've got it covered through work. And, I had more conversation about it, and, it made sense to me. Like, I want to say 3 times my salary through work, but then I have basically supplemental life insurance through Northwestern. And it was, friend of a friend, whatever, in terms of who I went through. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I die tomorrow, and there's probably, my wife my wife might kill me after this, but there's $750,000, $1 million payout, like between work and between, the supplemental life insurance that we're buying through Northwestern. So
Yeah, she gonna get more from you, cuz.
like I said, you
you
got to remember, I have a wife, I have my own son, and yes, she's on there, but it's a percentage.
She'll probably still get more than you. I'm just playing. Nah, she gets a smooth 500.
There you
I
go.
don't got nobody else on there but her.
Right. There you go.
It's 500,000. So listen.
There you go. And that's significant.
Listen,
and
God
that matters.
willing, she
Like,
get it. The fuck, God willing, she
Right.
gets that shit.
I joked about it, but like, I would not be in the position I am right now if my father hadn't passed away when I was.
And listen, let me
11.
tell you something. It may sound dark, but I wouldn't mind passing away to put her in a position. Is all I'm saying.
Well, don't die, because I need you to do this show. Without
Well,
you, this show doesn't exist.
You might make more. You might make more like for me gone than me here. So either way, just make sure you kick something back to my baby.
There you go. I
You
hear
know
you.
what I'm
I got you.
Hopefully you'll at some point decide to play the game
I'll never play the game.
and generate some wealth that will exceed the insurance that
Let me tell you something. Like you said, like I said, and you know it personally. That this is my first credit card, as well as my first time making payments on a car. Worst decisions of my life, both of them.
But it's not. Like, long term, it's really not. It may be a
Worst
pain in the ass
decisions
right
of
now.
my
but-
life were both of them. Both of them, worst decisions of my life.
So for my young viewers out there, don't listen to Cliff.
Please don't.
Cliff's
'Cause listen,
30
I've made
Cliff's-
some
Cliff's
very
in his
dumb
mid-30s,
decisions, and
don't
both
listen
of
to
those
him.
still to this day are the worst decisions of my life.
I can think of at least one that was worse.
Well, financial.
I could think of probably a couple of them worse than that. So
No, yeah, you're counting that. You see, that's the thing though. We're different people, so you're thinking that's worse. I'm thinking this is. You feel what I'm saying?
well, I have to ask,
What?
how is
The wound?
a credit card,
Uh-huh.
a what, $500 credit card? Is that what
Yeah.
how is paying a $500 credit card the worst decision you've ever made in your life? I got to hear this one.
Falling into the whole thing, the whole credit thing. Now, you know me. Listen, I was a cash guy so far to the point that I didn't put all of my cash into the bank because I don't trust that. I don't know what happens to y'all's computers and then what, I lose all my money. So I need this here, right? So what I feel like, honestly, if I'm being honest with you, I feel like this is making me soft.
If the computer system
making
fails,
me rely
the economy
on someone
fails.
I don't trust in the first place.
It's the least amount of your worries if the computer system, quote unquote, fails.
Listen, that may be.
That's when we hop in the car and we head to Anderson Island out there on the West Coast.
Well, all I'm saying is don't give no names, and secondly, you know who you're talking to. That may be my thriving point.
I understand.
If
I
shit
don't
like
disagree
that happens,
with that.
that may be when the meek inherits the earth. That's exactly what I'm saying. Right there, when all these people start panicking because they don't know I've been here, sir. So come, let me talk to you. Come have a seat with me. Let me say, but you can't leave with that, though. Right. You can come talk to me, but you can't leave with that. That's me now.
I hear you.
All right. So Cliff, you said you were at a point where you only want to pay cash, right?
Right.
Okay. Have you noticed anything recently about cash?
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't exist.
Exactly. How many times have you gone to a store or place and they said, hey, you have to pay us the exact amount of change because we don't have any coins.
It's because they don't want to hit. This is a COVID
real quick,
thing,
before you speak, Mike, let me say something. I got 2 words on my origins. One was derogatory when it comes to credit, which I still want the answer to. One was green, as in ignorant. Wait, and that's what that statement just was. Very green. That was a very green statement, Mr. Taylor.
That money is going to disappear?
Mike, money is money, right? I'm not saying that
money only has the value that we put in it, though. Like, right, there's nothing valuable about money.
Exactly correct. So I'm not saying that.
If all the computer systems collapse, there's no money anymore.
Right, but speaking to what he's saying, I'm not saying that paper money is an issue, but we all know right now it doesn't take much time to change paper money into credit currency. You feel what I'm saying? It doesn't take me nothing to go to Speedway and put $1,000 on a prepaid Visa card and I'm back in the money. You feel
okay?
The fact that I say I like money under my mattress doesn't mean I literally keep money under my mattress. You feel what I'm saying? Like we're not back in the day. We're not in Scarface days.
That's kind of how you're talking, though.
Had to bag up money and put it under. No.
So what are you talking then? Oh, you talking? Never mind. I think
Mike,
I have an idea of what you're talking about.
Do you have a Pornhub?
Oh my God.
Do I personally? Yes.
Right. How do you pay for that Pornhub? With money under your mattress. Exactly. Because it's not linked to you. It's
Visa gift cards.
Exactly. You see what I'm saying here? Listen, it's zeros and ones, baby. I've been saying this for days. But
at the same time, again, if the economy, if the quote unquote, the computer system behind all that crashes, none of that shit matters. Paper money doesn't matter. Credit money doesn't matter. You know what starts to matter? And we've had this, I think we brought this up last week.
The meek matter.
It's the meek inherit the earth, and it becomes the resource wars. It's, do you have food? Do you have water?
Right. And you know who's going to have food and who's going to have water?
All the people with the money right now.
Well, see that's the thing though, because if you don't have money, what'd you say, Michael? You don't have money. all you have is your resources at that point, right?
True.
Right.
You no longer have money to pay people to protect you. You no longer have anything. So at that point, all you have is what your money paid for.
Right,
You
which is
don't
a
have
friend
money,
with guns.
which means that if you have people like me that are upset about how things went beforehand, what's stopping me from taking that from you?
Well, there's
Like,
nothing.
honestly.
At that
just
point,
be
there's
honest.
nothing to take, though. That's the whole point. There's nothing
Your
to take. It's
resources,
worthless.
Mike. Your resources.
Fair.
That money that we're not talking about that got you those resources is what I want. What do you have that's stopping me from taking it?
Hey, they still may have some resources that's going to stop.
And I expect everyone to have guns,
Right.
right? I expect everyone to have guns at that point. But who is better with them? Who's
Who
more
has-
willing to go further? Who's all that makes sense. And what I'm saying is the rich aren't the ones that you have to worry about. The two people in the polo shirts pointing guns at the protesters
Yeah.
aren't the people you have to worry
No.
about. Let's be real. And we all know that. We all know that.
Agreed.
If we really want to be 100 and we want to call a spade, the ones you got to worry about are the backwoods white boys that have family been in the military. I'm down in Louisiana, Kentucky, all that, and we have guns and gun rights, while everybody up here, they're not letting people have those, right? Those are the people you have to worry about. But for the few that have prepared for the situation, doesn't seem that bleak to me. You
I
feel what
hear
I'm
you.
saying?
I hear you
It's
on
not
that
that
front.
big of a deal. I've been struggling since before, right?
This is your chance.
Are you serious?
This is where we flip positions,
Is
Cliff.
that not where generational wealth? How do you think y'all got generational wealth originally, right? Taking it from other people.
True.
Right.
That's
That's a
colonization.
fact.
Yep.
Right. So what I'm saying is Black folks aren't going to get generational wealth from credit or credit management because it's a
They don't.
different set of rules. Now, once the meat gets to inherit the earth and you get a chance to say, well, I've been struggling all my life, what do I have to lose?
I hear you. And while I agree with you from a broad spectrum, that is not the current world. And so this is where I will again
Vastly approaching.
I will again bring us back to wealth generation with Michael Taylor.
It's impossible.
I told you I can bring us back on the rails, man.
But no,
That's
I
what I'm
don't-
here
listen,
for.
I feel like, okay, so what we've discovered in this specific episode is credit is equal to politics. I don't want to hear anything about a manipulative, already set up for people to fail system. I don't want to hear about it.
But again, it's
not-
only
again.
And I'm not saying I don't want to hear about it in a standpoint of you speaking. I just don't want to hear about it directed at me.
Okay.
well, and I don't
You
think
can
any
talk
of this
to-
has been. Well, maybe there's been a couple that have been directed.
Yes, there has.
I
because
corrected
the only-
myself. I
The only
corrected
time
myself.
I've been talking is when people say, "Well, Cliff, what about?" or "You're not thinking about." If you just listen, all the times y'all talk to yourself, what do you see me do this?
Yeah, he did his whole look off to the side and act
That's what I do
disinterested.
because I don't want to. I mean, let's be honest. I don't want to be a part of it.
I hear you, but I'm actually grateful to have Mr. Taylor
Oh,
on.
I'm definitely grateful. Listen, what do you mean? I asked him to be on, but I was just hoping, like we said. But when I thought about it, credit, generational wealth, real estate all have one thing in common, which is credit. Credit.
to an
Credit.
extent. Yep.
Credit's
Well-
the only one thing involved in all that. Credit. You have to have credit to be involved in any of that.
Not necessarily.
Tell me how. I've been waiting on that. Tell me how.
But you keep interrupting.
The way the life you want to live is the cash life. Now, if you want to save up enough money to buy a house,
No.
you can do that.
No. See, this is now. Listen, let me be 100% honest with you. And Mike, this means more to you than it does to him. This is where I feel like you're getting into the Chauncey realm.
See,
Because-
I actually want to have Mike and Chauncey on the same episode.
But they would
because they look exactly alike, and
But my guy's older and he looks better. What's up, Chauncey?
Is he
I'm
older?
just
Wait,
playing. I'm
wait.
just
Is he
playing.
older?
I'm just
Is he
playing.
older, though? Is he older?
I got to shoot shots. Bow, 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 bow. I got to shoot shots. You said what?
I don't think he is. I don't think Mike is older than Chance.
Oh, definitely. We had this conversation. But we won't have it. Yeah,
we won't do it. We won't do it live. We won't call it.
Yeah, we won't do it live.
Calling out names. We'll talk about it after the show.
Yeah, and he looks better. Bow, 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 bow. What you talk about? What you saying? I don't discriminate. I just tell the truth. But that's all I'm saying.
I'm gonna tell the Chance you talked about him.
Oh, if he doesn't know I talked about him, tell him I'm talking about him more for not being a fan.
Not being on this show.
Yeah. So what do you mean? That didn't mean anything.
That's fair.
To me.
That's fair. All right.
That means
All right.
nothing to
Moving
me.
on. Back to generational wealth.
But that's all I was saying is that it seemed that all of it equates together. It seems like you can't get
Credit and
to the
generational
same
wealth
point
aren't the same thing,
without
though.
one thing there. And that was my whole thing for a lot of people that don't have that available to them. It's almost like the episode means nothing to them because they're like, well, shit, I don't fall into that category.
Well,
you know what I mean?
That's the whole point.
Now, what you said was with the because you did. I'm not gonna say you didn't teach me. You schooled me on the people the credit repair, filing all the stuff for you. I didn't know they did that. All I thought, because I know people that do credit repair, and I don't know if they do it well enough. Because if they're doing all that, these aren't those people. You know what I'm saying? Because if they're doing all that, like sending stuff in, then yeah, that definitely does, that makes a difference. But at the same time is, other than that, what can you do if you don't have bread? You feel what I'm saying? If you don't have bread, you don't have credit. Other than that, how do you build generational wealth? Other than, like I said, dying at your job.
Right. No, and I agree with you on that
like,
front,
come
Cliff.
on. Like, this doesn't make sense to me. Make it make sense to me.
It should make sense to you. It
doesn't.
makes sense. No, it makes sense to you. You just don't like it. That's more like it. You understand that you can create generational wealth by having
Listen,
good
if
credit.
I'm keeping it a buck, I'm not gonna be that deep. I'm not gonna be that deep on this episode. But if I'm keeping it a buck, I'd rather run the streets. I'd rather run the streets and know that I can get taken off of them and put to jail for years of my life than play with that. It's the same game.
But when that happens, no, it's not though. No, fuck that. No, listen. That is not the same game, because guess what? When you get taken off the streets and you get thrown in jail, karma doesn't have shit.
It's well, see, here's the thing though. Karma doesn't have shit if they ruin my credit either.
Well, let's
so
hear
who's
this.
Who's ruining your credit? Them or you?
Or you?
Listen, Mike, this is what I feel like both of y'all aren't understanding.
I feel like this is how Cliff used to feel when Matt was on the show with me.
and you're somewhat right, because this is what I feel like both of y'all are in a good situation.
And
both
why?
Of you are
why
in a good
are we
situation.
in a good situation though?
Generational wealth for you.
And I acknowledge that.
And I don't explain to me, Mike, but it definitely wasn't all credit, because I didn't see you hustle for years.
You see me hustle?
Yes, that's what I'm talking to you. And listen, I'm not saying that you didn't get credit to get some houses or whatever the case may be.
But that's the thing. That's what. Go ahead. No, I don't want to speak for you, Mike.
No, exactly. I mean,
listen though.
I want to say. That's my whole point of all of this.
Listen, you're not listening. Listening.
Guess what, though, Cliff? You're the one that's not listening, because you keep saying shit like you're not listening. Like
80%. Y'all are the 20%. We said that, right? Y'all are the 20%.
The only,
what I
first
asked
of all,
for, stop it. What I asked for.
Speaking of not listening,
was for someone to explain to me how to get out of their situation without having to depend on credit immediately. No one still to this point has answered that question for me.
Okay, I'll tell you one thing. is get you a side hustle.
Now that's great. That's exactly what I'm looking for, Mike. That's exactly what I myself am looking for. I need something for the people that don't have the availability to be able to get the credit card or the credit financiers or the me help the people that think like me.
So can I tell you a story?
Tell me anything.
From beginning to end.
Good luck.
And
I will cut Cliff off. I will sit here and cut Cliff off.
and even though you lived in my household, Clifford, you may not even know this story, but this is my story.
What are you talking about? The travel situation?
Let him talk.
Where did my finances go to?
I know. Listen, and we're talking about the same situation. Continue.
So I went from doing well to nothing, absolutely nothing. In fact, my money was so low that I was just doing whatever I could just to pay a little bit on a bill.
And I remember vividly. And if I'm being 100% honest, that's when I started getting proud of you.
All right, now let him finish.
Let me be 100, because before it was just working. You feel me?
But you understand why people...
It was just working, and you had a little bit of a side hustle, but the most was just working. And I'm not going to say where, of course, but you were just working.
Mm-hmm.
Is that not right?
Well, let him continue.
Always had at least something on the side.
Right. But what I'm saying is, I'm just trying to explain to you that I'm not, listen, I don't know who anybody else was, but I was vivid in understanding what was going on around me. You might not understand that there were some things that I noticed that nobody else did.
All right, let's keep the story going.
You know
Go
what
ahead,
I'm saying?
Mike.
But continue what you're saying.
All right. So I went to zero. My credit went from good to in the complete toilet. So I couldn't buy a pack of gum on credit.
Listen, I got to take over the computer room, so I was happy about that. But I'm just playing.
So anyway, I'm like at the bottom. And that actually was when I realized that I would never ever let someone else control my money.
Right. And that's it. I'm telling you, that's the exact point where I was like, oh shit, this is my guy right here. Like, I mean, like, I'm not saying that you didn't do things for me before, but when I saw that struggle, that was like, when I was like, that's my guy. That's my guy right there. That was about around the time that we started our rapping thing, our record label.
Gotcha.
I got the computer room. I got to download the rapping shit, and I started all that. Listen, that's how all that began. That's exact. This is what he's saying is how all that began.
Yeah.
All right.
I remember all that.
All right.
Well, I remember all that. But what I'm saying is, I appreciate that. Listen, I definitely appreciate that you use this, what you're talking about on this podcast, to pull yourself out. But what I'm saying is, and maybe what it comes down to is the fact that I'm not indulging enough truth. You know what I mean? Like, when it comes to certain people I would be advocating for, I guess you could say. But that's, you know what I mean? That's a lot of their business. But all I'm saying is, if it's not a game that everybody can't line up at the starting line and race in, I just don't want to race. I don't care if I know I can win.
So
I don't want to be involved in it.
So jumping in here, just because I will tell you, it's clear you two are talking about a very specific situation that I don't know that we want to talk about on the podcast.
No,
but
we won't.
But what I will say is that we're starting to lose from a from a being able to follow situation. Like, I will say that I think I get what we're talking about, but at the same time, like, I would like to get back to not necessarily specifics about this situation, but Mike, when you talk about how you were able to kind of come back out of that, like I'd like for us to transition into that, just because I feel like it's gotten a little almost a little too nebulous for the audience.
I understand what you're saying. The only thing I would say about that is, in order for you to explain how you got out of that situation, it's kind of hard not to explain about the situation. You feel what I'm saying?
No, because all I need to do is, only thing they want to know is, okay, how do you go from zero
being in a spot to being successful?
Exactly.
Yep.
Exactly. And what I did, I knew my credit was screwed up, so I knew I couldn't get anything on credit.
Right.
But I wanted to come back.
It's about prioritizing things at that point.
But you also weren't by yourself either. Let's keep it a buck. You weren't by yourself either.
No. So I'm gonna tell you this. If I was by myself, I would have came back faster.
No, I can understand that. I can understand that in a weird way. I can understand that.
So won't get into all the details, but what I did is I still went out there and got me a job. I got a job that was well beneath me.
Listen,
I hear you.
you're
Sometimes
talking
that's
to
what
me
you
like
gotta
I
do.
don't remember shit. I remember this.
Every day I went in that job, I felt like I had done everything under the sun wrong in life. When you got and at the time I was probably 40, and I got a 22-year-old boss that's dancing around saying, you need to do this, this, and the other, when I wanted to just jab him right in his face and tell him to sit down.
I will tell you that right now I am that boss. Not 2021, like I'm in my 30s, but I've got a couple of 50-year-olds reporting to me.
Listen, I have no problem reporting to anybody younger or greener than I am. Watch how you talk to me.
But I get what you're saying.
Right.
Just watch how you talk to me. Treat me with respect. That's it.
Right.
I'll run around. I'll wash the toilets. If you need me to take the trash out, I'll do that.
Right.
But don't talk to me crazy, because
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
lose this job and I'll fuck you up.
I hear you.
Well,
Go ahead, Mike.
That's where I was. However, I knew that this was only temporary. So, as you know, I not only did that, but when I came home from work, I started the asphalt company.
Yeah, right.
Out there day and night, sealing driveways and stacking the money.
Right.
And I kept doing that. And even when I transitioned from that pizza job to a more appropriate job,
Right.
still kept doing the driveway.
The asphalt stuff. Yeah. And Cliff, you worked with Mike during some of that,
For
right?
6 years.
Yeah, I was about to say. I remember all that.
It was a while.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed every minute of it. I enjoyed every minute.
And that
of
is a fantastic learning opportunity.
Even burning my face off and peeling. I didn't know niggas could get sunburned until I worked that job and was like, oh,
welcome to my world, motherfucker.
It was so bad. I had to buy aloe vera.
I hear you.
A chick told me, like, have you ever put aloe
vera? Yeah, absolutely.
And I said,
it helps with
and I got
sunburns.
hit the aloe. I still have aloe vera to this day because of that.
Well, yeah, because you can only buy it in like the gallon containers, and you never use all of it.
I got the little lotion size bottle.
Okay.
You need the gallon container.
Yeah, true.
You
You
probably
see me?
got a
You
baby
see
in
this
that
shit?
shit, but you're pasty ass nigga.
White as hell.
I love you though.
understand.
You ain't even white. That's light Mike. Nope, he's white Mike. We
discussed this offline. Yeah, you demoted me back to white Mike. It's
yeah,
all
your
right.
credit, you're white Mike again. You're not like
My credit score is too good to be light Mike. I'm white Mike.
Listen, and you're moving to listen.
And I'm
let me
moving to
find out.
Bexley. Yeah, I hear you.
You're gonna have to gain your light card.
I'm gonna have to earn it back. What was it? Aaron called it. He said my certificate of negroticity, I think was the term. I gotta earn that back.
Listen, you gonna get it. It's all right. Listen, and nobody's hating on what you're doing.
And we're gonna put a studio in the basement, and then that'll be the new side hustle.
Ooh,
We'll make it work.
speaking of, y'all talking about hustles and shit.
Oh, what you got there? Is that a
Ooh,
candle?
That is a candle. Who's gonna be fooling in the bathtub? I'm gonna be two fools agreeing in the bathtub. Light that up in the bath. Listen,
which
all
one
I'm
of us
saying
is white?
Somebody has a custom candle business. If you want the information, get at us in the chat.
Oh shit.
Hustle. You gotta have a hustle.
You do.
Listen, who do you think you're talking to though?
Well,
I just don't equate hustle with credit.
You don't equate hustle with actually making money, is what I understand. I'm sorry, that was wrong.
Listen, you know what? I've seen. It's funny. It's funny, and I'm gonna say this, Mike.
This is where Cliff and I are no longer friends after this episode.
Mike throws jabs at me when he knows I can't throw them back. Because as much as I don't care about getting fired from my job, I don't want to incriminate myself either.
I love
and
you.
I could say improve things.
I know you could.
That would
but don't do that.
Incriminate me. So I can't do it. So I just have to eat those.
I love you, Cliff. Just remember, I love
you.
you.
To it.
If I didn't, I kid because I care.
You ain't gotta tell me, buddy. I love you too. You ain't gotta tell me. But you always hit me with shit where I'd be like, nah, nigga, I did. Can't say that. That won't go.
Takashi motherfucker.
Listen. I have I can't snitch on myself now.
All right, so bringing us back, Mr. All right, you know it's funny. I've struggled with calling him.
Here we are. No bringing us back. Bottom line, you can't get generational wealth without life insurance or credit. You can't get credit without credit. You can't get a job without credit.
But wait,
you can't get real estate without credit.
Where did you get all of this?
But where did we finish the conversation about how Mike crawled out? How did we figure out how Mike crawled out?
Oh no, yeah.
Let's finish that up, and I'll be right back.
All right.
Yeah, explain to me. Explain to me.
All right.
I know what it is. I can finish the story myself.
Well, you know you can't.
I bet I could.
You don't know.
I won't know the deets. I won't know the deets.
Okay.
But I know the deets.
Well.
Explain. I know the deets, baby. Listen, what happened was that driveway company that you had popped off a lot more than you expected it to.
That's because I was hustling.
No, I'm not taking anything away from you. I didn't say that wasn't why. But it popped off to the point that you had other people that could help you doing it to where you weren't just the hustler, but you were the employer of the hustlers.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right.
Listen, I'm saying I was paying attention is all I'm saying.
That's how you do it. That's how it starts. You hustle, then you find somebody else to hustle for you. You can't hustle forever.
So, but here's my thing though. And I'm not. I am and I'm not. I'm going to jab your ribs every chance I get because I love you and I love poking at you. But what I'm saying is for somebody that doesn't have the funds to get sealant, a truck, or anything like that, what hustle would you?
Hey, there's all kinds of hustles out there. That driveway ain't the only hustle. And when I started doing that, I didn't have a truck.
Well, see, this is one thing that I will say, and I want to say this, and this isn't anything that I feel like is incriminating on me or anybody else. I have no problem with the young boy selling drugs on the corner. That's the exact same thing that the white folks did from the beginning but you just criminalized it when they did it. You feel what I'm saying? It's what we discovered. It's a capitalistic world. You feel what I'm saying? If it wasn't, you wouldn't worry about people dying while you made money.
True.
So I feel like you can't talk about these kids, whether they're selling dope, heroin, crack, cocaine, doesn't matter. You do the same thing, whether it be pharmaceuticals, and I don't mean you specifically, and I'm not talking to you, Mike, I'm talking to the camera, but I mean, all this has already been established. So when you see somebody taking the opportunity they have available to them, I don't see a problem with that. Is it right? No, it's not. And I'll be the first to say it's not right. But how much of what goes on in this world is? So I don't feel like you should be able to tell them stop it when you're
what I would
children Adderall and.
But what I would say is Mike is not necessarily saying don't do that. He's giving them the alternatives and the legal alternatives to being able to do that, right? Like there are other ways to
I like that.
create wealth, right? At the end of the day, like, and guess what? It's not easy. Like, and everybody agrees with that. But, and I'm not, you know me and my bleeding liberal heart. Everybody should make a living wage, and they shouldn't have to have a side hustle to survive.
At the very least.
But
at the very least.
Agreed. But if you want to do more than survive, I hear what he's saying about having a side hustle and, you know, being able to make incremental wealth on the side.
And that's why I say when you get into credit, I feel like you lose empathy, because what it comes down to is you having the availability to get into it. But at the same time, I know, and I'm talking about my family specifically. I know someone that couldn't move into the house that they wanted to move into because the child was still going to school and the school bus didn't run through there. So they had to walk to the main street just to get to the bus stop, and the kids around that area kill people.
I hear you.
You feel what I'm saying? So that one situation right there stopped them from being able to move into a house that they needed because the people around them are a certain kind of way.
Agreed.
So what I'm getting at is there are a lot of people who don't have that opportunity.
And remember, I coached at Linden. I coached at Whitehall. Like, I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree
Mike,
with where they're coming
you,
from.
And I understand you completely correct. But like you said, adding Dominic as an authorized buyer and all that, I was with you a while. You feel what I'm saying? I'm not saying you should have or anybody should have done it for me. All I'm saying is I didn't know anything about any of that. I just said I got my first credit card this year. You feel what I'm saying?
And that's a fair comment to make. Like, but again, based on what I've heard and based on what I've heard through this conversation, like, I also think that Mike has learned through this experience. Like, Mike is also not in the same position he was 10 years ago, 15 years ago when you were in the household.
You are 100% correct. And listen, no, before you say that, it's not your job, period. That's the first off. I'm not saying, and that's what I'm trying to get at. I'm not saying that it's ever your job in general. I'm just saying if I would have had some of this information, maybe I wouldn't be so far gone now. But now,
well,
there's no coming back.
So you have had the personality that you have now
for my whole life. I know.
You've always had this personality.
I know that.
And guess what? When we get Jeannie on the show, we're gonna prove that. But continue.
I know.
So this is a question I don't know if you remember this clip. You may remember this.
I'm sure I do.
You were 18, I think. 17, 18.
Okay.
I asked you this question.
Uh-huh.
So you and I had
the exact same answer.
Huh?
I'm gonna give you the exact same answer today.
No. So we were talking, and I was talking about your future.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, have you thought about?
I don't do plan Bs.
Wait a minute, hang on. Let me.
Okay,
let him set it up.
I asked you. I said, what do you want to do when you when you grow up, when you get out on your own? You say, I don't know. I said, well, what do you like to do? You know what your answer was?
What?
I remember to this day.
Nothing.
You said, no, you said, I like to argue. That's the answer you gave me.
That's
Really?
that's still true.
Yeah.
That's why we have the podcast.
You told me you like to argue.
I like to argue, and more importantly, I like when the argue escalates and it gets physical. That's what I like.
Well, I don't want. We don't want it to get physical because we don't want you going to jail.
Right.
So you know what?
That don't mean nothing.
Wait a minute. So
You don't go to jail necessarily if you do it right.
So after we had that conversation, when you said that, I said, okay. You know who does a lot of arguing and makes
Lawyers.
Lawyers, yeah.
Yep. I said lawyers. And then
I said immediately because I'm not
You said
going to school.
He's not going to school for another 4 years.
Got me fucked up. I'm not going to school for.
Now, I said, before you say no, I have a friend who's a attorney.
Was it Kevin's ex?
You mean no, Boo's
I
ex?
remember. I remember you took me over to talk to her. I don't know if it was
No,
for
I
her.
No, this was just he's not related or anything. But
Oh, okay.
I was going to take you to watch him in action.
Nah, I wouldn't have cared.
Yeah, you said nah.
No, I wouldn't have cared. I'm not.
But
listen,
there are-
when I
but
say,
there are
and
other-
I say this with the. I'm not that kind of person.
No, I agree with you on the lawyer front, but like there are other jobs
No,
that
I mean
require
I could
that
see
skill
myself
set.
being a lawyer if I really, because you know how I am. If we really get a good something that I'm interested in, I'll do my research and
You
I'll
will.
make sure I touch every topic on it just so I can say. I even look at things where I say he's gonna say this to me, and I'm gonna say nope because I already thought about it.
Here's
This is what-
here's the counter argument.
So
Yep.
I feel like I would have been good at that, but that's just not me. That's not
I mean, I
me.
understand that, but my point is, back then, I was trying to figure out, okay, which road do you want to take? And
Knew it. Y'all both knew it, and y'all wouldn't let me. Y'all both knew it, and you wouldn't let me. You knew the only
Wouldn't
road
let?
that was there for me.
was rapping.
Fighting.
You didn't say anything to me about fighting. You only told me you wanted to rap. Matter of fact, when you stopped playing football, what did you turn to?
Music.
Rap, right.
Music. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
We did a ton
So
of
that was the only.
But you know what happened even before then? Even before then, I had an opportunity to fight. I won't give my details. Couldn't fight though. And what I ended up doing is getting deeper into shit that I shouldn't have got into because that's what I wanted to do. That's the exact
I hear you on that front.
That's the exact. I wanted to do something. I wasn't allowed to do it. I was going to do it anyway. You know me better than a lot of people do. Nobody's going to tell me no. If I want to do something, I'm going to do it. And that's exactly what happened. I lost my glory where I could have had it and gained it where I shouldn't have had it.
That's
the
fair
that's
comments.
the facts.
And I hear you on that.
Well,
Those are facts, G. But rapping was just something that I felt like I was good at, that I could
And you
do.
were, and you still, honestly, you still could be, and still are. So,
And the funny thing is, I'm not interested in that
I know you're
anymore
not.
either.
But the flip side of it is which is why I'm glad we have this. When we talk about a side hustle, at this point, it's not easy to make money in kind of the game that we're playing now with this podcast and that kind of stuff, right? Like making money on it, and I will tell you, like, and I will put money into it to try to make money, but it's very hard to do that. And
I'm waiting for World War III, and I'm crossing my fingers to come together and we
Trying
fight
to
the
make it to that
government
point.
instead of each other. That's what I'm hoping for. And if it goes down, frontline soldier.
there you go. Well, and we've talked about it a little bit kind of throughout the show. So we talked a little bit about wealth generation in terms of, life insurance and those kind of things. Like that's kind of a baby step that people can take towards generational wealth.
Yeah, that's all in my opinion.
And to your point, Cliff, on, unfortunately, in some cases, that means you got to die before they get to a certain age. But if you have a life insurance policy, that's not entirely true. If you're looking, like, for me, the only reason I had quote unquote generational wealth passed down to me was because my dad was working for the state. He had a public employees retirement fund and he had Social Security. And I got to take that money from the time until I was 18. So that's why I was able to afford the school I did, etc. So I think when we look beyond that, though, like, Mike, I know we've been talking about this kind of off and on, but like beyond life insurance, what are some of the opportunities there to generate wealth, develop generational wealth? And I know we've talked a little bit offline more so on the real estate front, and I feel personally, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but like I am in a situation where I'm not necessarily selling my house, but I'm buying another house. I am turning this into a rental property where I'm making roughly, it's only going to end up being $100 a month because I'm not going to charge my mother-in-law to like what I would a normal tenant, right?
Right.
Like what are some of the opportunities there when we talk about, ways to generate wealth, real estate? Like what is your take in terms of the real estate game and those kind of things? Because that's something I've been interested in for a long time, and I'd like to get your perspective on that before we close out the show tonight.
I mean, for me, real estate is the perfect avenue. I mean, it's not easy, but I think it's the perfect avenue because, like you mentioned, I mean, it checks so many boxes. If you get into real estate, if you have a property, if you had just one property, I mean, you get tax write-offs, you get appreciation, where like your property gained equity, and you were able to pull that equity out and buy another house.
Right.
So you got that, and you get monthly residuals.
Yep.
Month after month after month. And the beautiful thing is 5 years from now, I mean, depends on whether your mother-in-law is in there or not.
Right. Trust me, I could charge up to $1,200 a month for this house. Right. I'm going to be charging like $675, $700.
Yeah. So imagine if you were charging $1,200 for that house right now. 10 years from now, the cost of living goes up every year.
Yeah.
But 10 years from now, you probably charge $2,000 for that house.
Right. $1,500, $2,000, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Yep.
It just keeps going up year after year after year. The very first house that I bought, rental property I bought, which was 10 years ago, the rent on that house was $500 a month. Now that the rent on that house is $800 a month.
So what have you invested in that house in the meantime?
So usually when you mean the upkeep?
Yeah, so what I mean is, my assumption is you take what your mortgage payment is on that, unless you bought that property straight up. So did you have a mortgage payment on it, or was it?
So that was my way into that property was from the asphalt company.
Okay.
So remember, I had no.
Was that right?
Yeah, I had.
That's inspirational. Because I didn't listen. That's me, and I was around for that. I didn't know that the first property came from the asphalt company.
Yes.
I'm very inspired by that.
Okay. Well, I'm glad that inspired you. But yeah, that's where it came from. I mean, after I got a decent job that paid the bills and gave me a little bit extra, I kept the asphalt, and every single dime that I made from that, I stacked it.
You stacked it until you could purchase that first property. Is that what you mean by
because my credit still wasn't good, so I knew I couldn't buy it on credit.
So did you buy it? Did you buy it cash off the asphalt company, basically?
Cash.
Okay.
And
the profit. So the profit you made from the asphalt company is how you ended up paying cash for that first property.
So you bought it cash without credit, huh?
Well, that's my point. So you said,
Oh,
So you
why
can
did
do
you
it.
lead
So
with
you
that?
can do
Why
it
did you
with
lead
cash.
with that?
So what he's saying is you
I
can
bought
do
my
it with
first rental
cash.
property all cash, no credit. Why did you lead with that? God damn! You got my attention very quick if you led with that.
I also don't know that you could do that today, though. Like,
No, you wouldn't.
there's
You
very
can't.
few properties, and I looked at a lot of kind of low-end
Are you in
properties for
Detroit?
my mother-in-law.
Maybe in
that
Detroit.
I could have bought
Most-
cash, but I would have had to put another $30,000, $40,000 into them.
yeah. So you can, and so, I mean, so you can't do it here in Columbus.
Okay.
Right. You have to be
You
Detroit.
have to be willing. I wouldn't do Detroit.
Why not? I feel like they're on the uprise.
They are on it, but you got to fully know.
Right.
But it's also
I
hard
get
to
what you're saying.
manage
I
a
get what you're
property
saying.
if it's not somewhere where you are, though. Like, so where is this property that you're talking about? Is it not in Columbus?
What, the one I bought?
The one that you're talking about.
Yeah,
No,
his first was an Airbnb out in Puerto Rico. Yes, it was in Columbus.
But that's my whole point, is that it's hard to do that if it's not in your location, especially
Okay, I
if
see
you're
what you're
doing it
saying.
as a
I see
side
what you're saying.
hustle.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
Detroit is
So
2.5 hours away.
Yeah, you
Like
don't have to
3
go
or
that
4
far.
hours away, but yeah.
You said what?
you don't have to go
Not
that far.
4, because Canada past Detroit's only 3.5. So Detroit's only about
Detroit's
2.5.
3 hours.
It's about 3 hours to Detroit, but you don't need to go to Detroit to get a deal on a property.
Right.
There are pockets in Ohio.
Well,
Yeah.
we were talking about cash, is why.
That's what I'm talking about. There are still pockets in Ohio where you can get properties
That are
for 20
decent,
grand.
that are
Are you
decent,
gonna?
or are you gonna have to put another 20 into
But
it?
halfway house.
Okay, so two things. One, after you need to have at least 10 grand to fix it up.
Absolutely.
Some of that work you're gonna have to do yourself. Now,
Right.
a lot of people aren't handy, but most people can pick up a paintbrush, so you can do some of the stuff.
And I-
about the 10.
And I tell you
1,000.
what, like I hear you on that, Mike. Like for reference, we looked at two ends of the spectrum when we decided to buy in Bexley. We looked at something that was entirely finished, perfect, blah blah blah, and then we looked at something we would have to completely rehab.
Mm-hmm.
Where obviously the rehab would have been more money up front, but long term is probably a better investment.
Mm-hmm.
There are two places that we looked at that are selling for like $250, which for anywhere else would be ridiculous, but for Bexley is a good price.
Mm-hmm.
Where we would have to put like $50,000 to $60,000 worth of rehab into it between floors and finishing touches basically. So that's a situation where like I thought about it and I'm like, but it's not something that I'm quite comfortable doing. From I'm fine to paint. I'm fine to put up like electric fixtures as long as the connections are all there.
Right.
More than that, though, that's not a comfort zone thing for me. So talk us through kind of what your journey was there.
So first of all, you're looking at a property that you're going to live in.
Well, true, but at the same time,
I'm sorry. Continue.
exactly, and I don't disagree with that statement that I'm going to live in.
Right. So what I would do, so I'm going to get a property that the average somebody else that's been living in an apartment and now they
Would
have
be
a
happy
house
with.
to live
Right.
in. They're just like, oh wow.
So you're
He's
looking
written
at
to poppers.
which no, and I get that because this is the whole conversation that we started this with, is that originally before we decided that we were just going to buy ourselves a house and then let my mother-in-law live here, we were looking to purchase a house for my mother-in-law to live in.
Mm-hmm.
So we looked at 1 or 2 bedroom places like in the Hamilton Township School District or you know, a mile, half a mile south from where we live in Old Town. So we looked at some of those places in like the 43205 zip code and 06 and 07 zip codes like around here. So that's where I'm curious, like, would those be viable rental properties? Like, there are places that are selling for, 100, 110. I'm not saying I can find something that is cash the way you talked about, like buying a place for 40 grand, but
No, listen, I have no qualms in the situation, but I don't think that anything in Bexley would be rental.
I'm not talking about Bexley. I'm talking about when we were talking about my mother-in-law, like south of where I live.
Oh, okay.
Like by my mom's place or further south, like South Columbus.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, South Columbus, actually, you can get something.
Yeah,
I mean,
you can find stuff. Okay.
So I would, I mean, if it's me, because I'm always still looking for property, but it's going to be, I'm not looking to pay more than $50,000 for a property.
Okay.
So
you're looking to pay $50,000 and put what into it?
I'm not trying to spend more than $10,000 on a rehab.
Okay.
So you can find those actually in Columbus, but you can find them even lower than that in other parts of Ohio outside of Columbus.
Yeah, further outside, like Marion or wherever. Yeah,
Logan and all that bullshit.
Well, no, I ain't going. I'm not going where people are destitute.
Okay.
I'm going where either the economy took a hit by a company moving out or something, or just,
okay, like where
Detroit.
No, I'm not.
I'm just playing. But listen, I'm telling you, Brett. Listen, I got some people up in Detroit.
I got family in Detroit.
You may want to look at some things. There's some steals going on right now.
I mean, you can probably still get some nice stuff in Detroit, but I don't know Detroit like that.
I hear
you. I don't want to have to. I mean, that's a bit of a.
I would move to Detroit and rock maize and blue immediately. What the fuck? I like that color better anyway. I don't care how much they lose. I look better in blue, baby.
There you go.
I'm just playing. I couldn't do that. That's blasphemy. That's false flagging.
Anyway.
He's stupid. Michael.
Back to the lecture at hand. I would get something, like I said, 40,000 or so, put about 10 in it, and I would rent that thing out Section 8.
Okay.
Because
I asked you about that, and you said that you didn't like doing that because it's harder, like it's more difficult
paperwork or whatever.
So Section 8 has its pluses and minuses, but the plus outweighs the minuses.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. So first of all, my experience, this is just my personal experience.
Right.
If you have a Section 8 house that's in a really bad area and people don't really want to live there.
A house or like an apartment? A house?
A house.
Like you rental property type stuff.
Yeah. So if you get something like that, you're going to probably get a tenant that's not going to be very good.
Right.
Because just because somebody's on Section 8 don't mean that they're
a
ghetto
bad tenant.
or they're going to tear your stuff up or don't care about it. A person is going to treat your house like you treat it. So if you put nice stuff in there and fix stuff on time and just make it look good, then most people will be proud that they have a nice place to come home to.
Right. I agree with that.
So I would fix it up and make it nice and rent it Section 8. Section 8 on a 3-bedroom will pay about $1,200 a month.
Right.
So you get way more money on a Section 8 and guaranteed money. So
isn't it harder for eviction?
I mean, why are you going to evict them?
because
I mean, I get that, but
I mean,
that money's
if
coming. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. If your money's coming in all the time, they're happy because they got a place to live and they're taking care of your place. Why would you wouldn't have to?
well, listen, if I'm keeping it a buck, these questions are coming from the conversation we had years ago.
Okay. What I mean, you gotta give
And
me
you told me it was harder to evict them. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying that you would want to, but I'm saying if you needed to, is that not the case?
no. I mean, you can evict them just like you evict anybody else. I mean, rules change. I
Okay.
don't know what was going on then, but
Yeah, it was years ago. Like it was back when I first moved into this house. Because remember, I said I got somebody that rent is guaranteed, but they on Section 8. Do you have?
Yeah.
And you said I got, but I don't like the.
yeah. So I mean, I've had differences of opinions on
Right.
And that's part of growing, right? Is having
Right. And this was years.
changing
That's what I'm saying.
opinions.
This was years ago. This is when I first moved to what's that? 6 years ago.
something like that. Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
It's been a minute.
So Section 8, to me, the hardest part about Section 8 isn't the tenant.
I would think I would want all the Section 8 properties.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to pass inspection.
Okay.
There, so you got to keep it up. You got to keep it up to a certain point.
You said that
yeah.
too. I remember you saying that too.
So that's the hardest part is the inspection
You did
because
say that.
and who the inspector is.
Right.
True.
Because the first time around when I went Section 8, the inspectors that were out there during that time were garbage.
Can you dispute an inspector like you can dispute credit?
No.
That inspector might have had something personally against me.
Well, that was the problem because the inspectors that I ran into always assumed that because you had a rental property, you had millions of dollars and that you thought you were better than somebody else and all that.
Gotcha.
So they would take the smallest things and write
and
you
be like,
up.
why didn't you fix this? You got all this cash.
Right. Exactly.
Right.
And then they cut off your money.
Right.
So, but that hasn't been. So I tried it again. So some other people had told me, man, you need to get back into Section 8. They have been telling me this for.
Oh, that's what's up then.
Yeah.
Well, and I'm sure it's cyclical too. Like it also.
That's what's up.
That's regulations and those kind of things that control that kind of stuff. And again, that's why it's important to vote in local elections.
Listen, well, let me tell you something. I bet if you'd have took that one that I was trying to give you, you'd have still been to this day, been like, thank you for that.
You talking to me?
Yeah. Because the people that when I first talked to you about it, the people that I was trying to set you up with, I was like, listen, they're A1. Like, don't miss like they shouldn't even be Section 8 type shit.
Well, I mean, that's who I would take now.
They shouldn't even be Section 8 type shit. And I'm not I'm not saying no names, but they make hella more money than me. Let me find out I can get Section 8. I slang a thing. Start an OnlyFans.
Fans only.
Food stamps. Fuck, I'm by myself. I got a baby. What the fuck, G? Don't nobody help me. I gotta pay the baby mom and bills. Help me out.
There you
Section
go.
8. Shit.
Ridiculous.
What's in that cup, man?
Right.
It ain't nothing else.
It's about to go. All right. So we are about at time. We're about 2:15. Mike, I appreciate having you on, man. I know Cliff can be difficult with these kind of conversations.
Listen, he raised me.
I understand.
I obviously didn't do a good job, huh?
Well, listen, it depends on how you look at
it. You want somebody to question.
Let me say, you also know my father, and I don't know if you can knock that out of anything. You know what I'm saying? That's something that ain't going to come out of your exhaust pipe, no matter how many times you bang it. That's in there. That sound's in there, buddy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I hear you.
So I always like to ask these kind of questions at the end of the conversation, especially when it's Cliff's people. So Mike, you and I have known each other for what? Cliff's 34, so we've probably known each other for 20 years off and on.
It's
Yeah, I
been
would say
longer than
so.
that.
Yeah, I would say
25,
even
25. Was it 25? Because, like,
you were
again,
a child.
Yeah,
I know. You are the only motherfucker that's ever gotten away with calling me little fella, first of all.
Well, he called you that ever since he knew you.
Right. So
even when your big ass was
bigger than
now,
him.
We knew you were big as shit. It's like how we called Tim tiny.
Right,
yeah.
right.
You feel what I'm saying?
So I'm gonna be selfish here at the end of the interview. You know, obviously, I feel like Cliff's mom always felt that I was a good influence in his life because
I need a hot round before we're done.
Because she kept me around. I gotta ask you, what was the impression like? Knowing Cliff, like, you know, Cliff and I have been friends since we were in kindergarten, right? So what was your impression of White Mike kind of growing up?
He wants you to gas him up.
No, I don't want him to gas me up. I just want to hear an honest opinion.
Why, is my opinion not honest?
Your opinion is honest, but I've got tired of hearing it.
Listen, I'm gonna be you the best thing that ever happened to me, Jack. I'm gonna tell you the truth.
And you're the best thing that ever happened to me. So
well, I appreciate that more than what
it's the only way I stay level-headed.
All my other friends aren't around anymore.
I'm the only one that's still here. That's why it's survival by the fittest, motherfucker.
And you know them all too.
All right, so to answer your question, Mike, so I'll tell you this, which was hilarious to me. When the first time we took Cliff over your house, and I'm like, they live right in the middle of the hood.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't even live around this many black people.
Right.
And that's why I am the way I am, ladies and gentlemen.
Right.
But you're not overboard. That's why you my guy. Because if you was Bubba Sparks, I wouldn't like you.
No, and I hear you on that.
I wouldn't like you.
I think it's funny, like it, and the thing that spoke to it for me was in college when people were like, yeah, you're like, you know, kind of a standard nerd, like you belong at Carnegie Mellon, but when you drink,
yeah,
I don't know, the Reggie comes out.
You get round who you used to kick it round, and then they like, oh shit,
shit.
Yeah, he was kicking it with some people we don't kick it with.
Now,
they never thought about college,
right?
And I'm not talking about myself. You know what I'm saying?
And
in
the
meantime, I thought about it. I was like, that don't work. I go to barber college.
There you go. And in the meantime, now Mike and I run into each other at Lowe's trying to, you know, fix the houses or whatnot. That was the best. That was the best about. Go ahead.
One of my favorite, Mike.
I appreciate it.
Who else is there? I don't keep a bunch of people around.
Well, you've had people come and go. I mean, and Mike has been there. He's been
everybody that y'all have been introduced to are locked in.
That's why
I've never introduced y'all to anybody that it's like they're not still around, or you know what I mean? Maybe like, going through hard times, but they're still around.
Yeah. But like Aaron became friends with you later in your life.
Right.
And but he still wasn't
12. That was 12.
Well, 13, but Mike was there when you were like 5, 6.
4.
That's true. We've been friends since we were 4.
4.
3 or 4, depending who you talk to.
2.
Oh man.
That's my G though. What you mean? That's why
that's why we're here with Do Fools Agree.
He's been demoted, but hopefully he'll get back to light Mike.
I'll work on that. You know.
Right.
We'll have the new studio soon. We'll see if that helps my cause.
Right. Listen,
Mike, I appreciate you joining us tonight. We are at time.
Hold up. Time out.
Oh,
fast round. Quick fast
what
round.
Do you got?
We're in the holiday season. We're in December.
Let's go.
Favorite Christmas movie, everybody.
Home Alone.
That's a good one.
I've been watching that with my son recently. That's why that's top of mind.
I didn't even think of that as a Christmas movie. What about you, Mike?
Well,
I'll go second. Mine is Scrooge with Bill Murray.
That's a good one too.
Oh, wow. I can't even think of the name of the movie.
I know you're not thinking about A Christmas Story.
When the mom says you're gonna shoot your eye out.
Yeah, Christmas
Story.
Yeah.
Yep.
Christmas Story. And he was beating up the dude. He said,
Yeah. That's actually my favorite part.
That's good. That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a good one.
It was mine too. I was like, he's bullying you all day, and you just, I loved it.
What else you got, Cliff?
What's your favorite part about the holidays?
For me, is the family, which we can't do this year, but family getting together.
Well, you could, but but I agree. That's the same as my Thanksgiving. What about you, Mike?
For me, it's being able to give. It's beyond family. It's being able to give gifts to family, like seeing somebody surprised by something I got them.
I know that's right. I wish I could get people shit.
No, I hear you on that. Trust me, I get that I'm privileged to be able to say that.
I'm just playing. Okay, next.
I'm gifting you with a new studio. We have a new Do Fools Agree podcast.
That's a great gift because it's more for you.
But you get to play too.
Right. So it's really a gift to you, but I can be like, oh, thank you. That's great.
Right. Yeah, no, right. we got a new studio.
Exactly. So the next one, and there's only two more, and I won't go into origins, even though I prepared some great ones.
Well, then save them for next week. We'll be all right.
I can't do them without him, so we'll just scrap these until next time. But how many Amazon packages you think gonna get swiped off of porches this year due to the pandemic?
So can I interject on this one?
I know you probably got a couple already.
I probably already have had some stolen, and I don't realize that they've been stolen.
That's what I'm saying.
No, somebody posted on the Old Town East Facebook page about how there is literally a dude who is following any UPS or FedEx truck that drives into the neighborhood. And just he drives right behind him.
As he should. Get your kids them gifts.
Which is why I work
them.
from home. I work from home, and guess what? When I know it's like 3 stops away, I'm sitting on the porch, motherfucker. Come try me.
You know what's crazy is I'm not even that kind of guy. Well, maybe I am that kind of guy, but all my packages are at neighbors' houses when I come home.
Are they?
Like, they're like, oh, I seen this and I ain't want nobody to take it, so
Well, that's good. Like, that means people like you in the neighborhood.
I don't play. I left my wallet. I was wearing sweatpants and it fell out the sweatpants pocket. Out in my car, and it was on my seat with the cards flipped out. No one touches my shit. You hear what I'm saying?
I hear you.
And I dare you to. You hear what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying. Don't play with me. I won't play with you. You know I love everybody around me. Even got my people that little Thanksgiving because their parents weren't in town.
Right.
But if somebody touches my shit,
I hear you.
I'm touching your shit, and I'm not gonna touch it nicely.
There you go.
Last one. Is Santa dead?
Is Santa dead?
And I'm gonna ask you why. This is a real life situation. There was and I've never been one to tell my daughter, "Oh, Santa brought you this."
Yeah.
And the whole reason why whole reason why that first is that I can't remember the comedian, but he was like, "You think I'm gonna tell my daughter or my kid a white man came and bought them all this shit and I'm broke as fuck?" And I said that makes a lot of sense. But here's the second thing though. I saw a post from a social worker that said, none of y'all should be saying Santa brought y'all's kids anything, because I've had more kids and parents come to me crying because they're asking why Santa doesn't care about them when their kids or their friends around them are getting iPads.
I
And
hear
that's
you.
the truth.
It is.
Some people can't afford shit. So when you put it on a Santa, you're taking it out of you, meaning that that person, why would they get them this and you only got pencils for Christmas?
Right, especially when you're talking about it being a matter of being good or being bad.
Right. It's not
Yep.
about Santa, it's about your specific situation. So I feel like since we're getting into this overcorrection where it's like, let's get rid of Santa. We even changed Christmas to Xmas to not offend people with Christ. So is Santa dead?
What I will say is my son went to a Jewish school, right? He went to the JCC for preschool.
Mm-hmm.
And when we asked him about Santa this year, he's like, Santa's not real. And he's 5.
Oh, that's why that's my guy all day. That's my
he's
guy.
He's like, nah, Santa's not real, Mom and Dad. No, he's not.
I remember my baby mom called me and said, did you tell your daughter that Santa doesn't? I said, listen, I don't know what you know. I've never told her Santa. I said,
exists.
These are, I don't even, on the
I never
the
said he was
package,
real in the first
I put
place.
Dad.
Right.
I
Me
don't
too.
put
Me
Santa.
too.
What the fuck are you thinking? I don't care if you elf on a shelf for 31 days. I'm not
That's
involved
not
with
That's
that. You feel me? The same way that we talked about this conversation, I'm not involved in that.
Right.
That's y'all. Y'all like that. Y'all do that. I don't do that. I don't like that. Leave me out of that. That's all I'm saying. So if you want to get me a present,
I'll tell you it's from me, Cliff.
leave me alone. That's it. And I'll know exactly who got it for me. I'm just playing. But I'll slump all these.
I mean, we still have a couple weeks before Christmas, so if you want to save some of them, you can save some of them.
You know what, Mike? Mom's coming on.
Is she?
Yep, already talked to her. We've already talked about topics. She already's been writing some things down, or I told her to. She said she had some things in her head. I said, write them down.
I'm going to take your girl, Mike.
Oh, man.
Jeannie's my girl. Love Jeannie.
Oh, that just made my day. That's funny. But I'm going to save these origins
We'll save
for
it for
you
Jeannie.
then.
All right.
For me or for her?
Well, they'll be for all of us. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like, okay, so let me give you an example. Like, so one of the origins is lemon.
Is what?
Lemon. Like
Lemon?
a bad car. Like how people say, oh, they sold you a lemon.
So we're going to invite Mike back on when we have Jeannie on?
That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
But before, where do y'all think lemon came from? Like when they was like, oh, we got a lemon clause or a lemon law, so they can't. Where did the first time they said we'll call that a lemon? Where do you think that came from?
Somebody thought it was an orange. They tasted it, and it was a lemon. Like, ooh, no, not that. No.
See that? Okay, I can kind of get. I was just thinking like that fucking car put a sour taste in my mouth. Like,
okay.
Oh, so that's a lemon.
All
Like,
right.
oh, they sold you a lemon then if that made you feel like that. You feel? That's what I.
That sounds reasonable.
But to give you an idea of how it goes,
How that segment
we'll give
works.
you an
yeah.
idea, a phrase, a name, and it's up to us to come up with
What the origination
reasoning
was.
why that happened.
All
Like
right.
one of them is Slumlord. No, I'm not calling you one. I'm just saying where you think
That's
that
all right.
came
Your
from.
mom calls me that all the time.
I mean, I in honesty, I've started referring to myself as that with regards to my mother-in-law. Like,
Listen,
I'm
you
your
about
new
to-
slumlord.
Listen, she definitely in the slum. No, I'm just playing.
All right, hey, for real, we're at 2.5 hours. Let's go ahead and wrap this up. I know you trying to get some other things in, Cliff. We'll save them for the next time.
I only wanted to give examples.
Well, good deal, Mike. You got anything
Matter of
that
fact,
got
Mike's off of this podcast. I'm running it for another 24 hours. Stick with me.
Go for it. Hey, Mike, you got anything to kind of close us out in terms of any last words, parting words, etc.?
Well, if anybody got anything out of this,
hopefully it was Cliff, but if not Cliff, who else?
Hopefully they try to play the credit game and go out and buy them a rental property and have some money to leave to their kids and the grandkids at some point.
Don't just die at work.
And on top of that, Mike, I appreciate you coming on tonight.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I'm with you in terms of that.
I think it was a good. I love you.
I think it was a good conversation. I hope. And honestly, we get a fair amount on the podcast, like especially any guys that I've coached in the past, any of the young guys. Like if you've got questions and those kind of stuff, feel free to reach out to Mike and I. Again, we are by no means financial advisors, but we've played the game and we seem to be doing all right.
Oh yeah, definitely that. Yeah, definitely that.
And so, Cliff, what else? Actually, before we get to the Cliff and closing out, I do have a couple of announcements that I wish I would have made at the beginning. Number one, I do want to take a quick moment of silence for a young man on the Whitehall Rams football team who passed away due to honestly, I don't know that they know yet, but he had a seizure in the morning. Woke up, was doing okay, and then went back to sleep and never woke up. And it was a young man who was a freshman on the team this year, Sebastian McCoy. So I want to take a quick moment of silence for him, and then hopefully I can close out with something a little more positive. So give us just a minute for the moment of silence. All right, and then to close us out, I do want to shout out the First Lady of the Fools, Melissa Ferguson. Happy birthday.
Belated. It was yesterday, wasn't it?
It was. So I wanted to make sure we shouted her out. And then,
I don't know if I guess you can call her the First Lady of the Fools.
She was the first female to join us live.
You're absolutely correct.
She was. So we'll call her the First Lady of the Fools. Thank you for joining us.
First Lady of the Fools, Melissa. Happy birthday, Smelly.
Bison Botanics.
I explained why I call it Smelly, but I'm sorry. There's only one Smelly, and it's not you, Melissa.
It's a different Smelly. Cliff, anything to take us out?
Love everyone until they give you a reason not to. And even still, handle with care.
Amen.
Unless you're defending yourself, then handle with hellfire and fury from the bottom of your. No, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. But I love y'all. We'll see you next week.
As always, my name is Michael Reggie.
Mike,
you can find
I love you even more.
You can find me at the Geeky Coach. As always, do us a favor, like, share, subscribe, and subscribe to us on the podcast. The podcast is where, the little bit of money we make off of this is from the podcast. So do us a favor.
Or don't.
Subscribe on that.
I'm just playing.
You're killing me, dude. And on top of that, peace out, fools. We appreciate y'all.
All right.
Or do we?
Why you always got to do that? Why you always got to do it?
I was going to give me the